prescriptions and false administration of medications. So think about this. You're just a person trying to go see a doctor. You assume that your doctor is doing the right thing, but these fraudulent healthcare providers are getting rich by giving people medications they don't even need. It's a defrauding of the American taxpayer, but it's a violation of us that should exist between every American and the people who prescribe the medications. That's one thing that we're targeting, and this is why we're taking this action, is because we want California to get serious about this fraud. The second thing I want to talk about, and it requires a little bit of background explanation, is that we are going to very aggressively encourage the states to take Medicare fraud more seriously. So I think a lot of you understand, but for those of you watching at home who don't appreciate this, the Medicaid system that exists in the United States is really 50 separate systems. The federal government pays most of the Medicaid money, but then each of the individual states actually administers the Medicaid program. We have red states and blue states that go after fraud aggressively, but we also unfortunately have some states, mostly blue states, unfortunately, that do not take Medicaid fraud very seriously. So you have what's called Medicaid fraud control units, or MFCUs. These Medicaid anti-fraud units within the Medicaid program, we generously, I mean, the federal government generously gives these fraud control units many, many billions of dollars across the United States of America so that they can take Medicaid fraud seriously. But let me just give you an example to highlight how absurd some of these Medicaid fraud programs are, because they're not actually being used at all. This is a tool. This is a tool that we want the states to use, but unfortunately, a lot of states aren't using these tools at all. Let me highlight this with just a couple of separate statistics. So, the Hawaii Medicaid program, the Hawaii Medicaid program has received billions and billions of dollars from the federal taxpayers. Of course, Hawaii actually paid a lot of money into this program over the last years as well. Guess how many convictions or indictments has Hawaii had over the last few years in its Medicaid fraud program? The answer is zero. Not a single indictment, not a single conviction, because the administrators of the Hawaii program just don't take it seriously. They don't think that fraud is a big enough problem. They don't care about protecting resources. They don't care about protecting that Medicaid program. So what does that mean? That means that if you're committing fraud in Medicaid in Hawaii, at least up until now, hopefully now they're going to take it seriously, you've had effectively free reign from the government of Hawaii to commit as much fraud as you want. That is a complete disgrace. In New York, which does a little bit better, not by much, New York has had 9 indictments over the last year. 9 indictments. That's a $100 billion Medicaid program just in New York, and you've had 9 indictments. Indiana, which has about a third of the population.
We're going to name the Backo case for Minnesota.
More than 4 times as many indictments.
They're gonna probably announce those case because they took 156. How was it 156,000 from them?
People of New York, no, of course not. That's absurd. What is happening is that the people in, the leadership in New York are just not taking the fraud issue seriously. They're not using these anti-fraud control units to actually investigate and indict the fraud. So we'll fix that. Today, we are sending across 50 Medicaid programs. We are sending letters that will require them to show that they are effectively and aggressively prosecuting Medicaid fraud in their states. And if they do not aggressively prosecute Medicaid fraud, we are going to turn off the money that goes to these anti-fraud units. And I want to say a couple things about this.
I'm over here clapping, and some of them programs are probably some of the programs were fraud programs that I was on. Whether I lost them or not, they were still. So I'm glad they're gone.
We also see Medicaid issues from a state like Maryland, which is obviously a blue state. But both Ohio and Maryland have worked with us to take this issue seriously. They've worked with the guys behind me. They've worked with our entire team to make sure that they take fraud seriously. Again, this does not have to be a red state or a blue state issue. This is just basic good government. However, states like California, states like Hawaii, states like New York have completely not taken the fraud issue seriously in the Medicaid program. And so for those states refuse to get serious about fraud, we're going to turn off that anti-fraud money. And if we continue to find problems, we can turn off other resources within their state Medicaid programs as well. Our goal here is not to do that. We don't want to turn off anybody. What we want to do is ensure that people are taking fraud seriously. We want to protect Medicaid. We want to protect Medicare. But we can't do that if the states that are administering those programs are allowing those programs to be released by fraudsters. So we encourage, whether New York or Maryland or Ohio, we encourage people to work with us. We want to help you use technology and other tools to get rid of the fraud, to get to the
I think
we want to help.
the camera has to get off of the TV screen.
So these letters are the first step, the first effort to try to force these states to get serious about prosecuting fraud, and that's exactly what we're doing. Let me just talk about one final issue here. We see a lot of fraud in the home health care and in the hospice care system.
Hey, that's you! Babysitter! Babysitter!
You have to appreciate that this fraud issue is fundamentally theft from the taxpayer, but also theft from people who need these programs.
Like you.
Just last month,
California psychotherapy. They're sending the company $190 grand a month for my care. I don't see no $190,000 worth of care.
No, you see
access to the
big
resources that she's been paying into her entire life. Why? Because a fraudster had stolen her identity and signed her up for healthcare services that she didn't need, and so she had been turned off of the healthcare services that she did need. This happens way too much in the United States of America. It happens because until recently, we did not have a government or administration that actually took the fraud program and took anti-fraud prevention seriously. So let me just close with one final observation here. First of all, why are we doing this now? Why weren't we doing this 2 years ago? And the simple answer is because we didn't have a president, we didn't have an administration who took fraud seriously. So I thank the President of the United States. I know in China, all of these efforts, all of these things that we're finding are because we have a president who's told us, take the fraud issue here, get to the root of it, and turn off the money when we find out what we're doing. But I just want to say that for me,
see Dr.
and a lot of people who are involved in this effort, this is very personal because I'm not just the Vice President of the United States. I come from a family, and I grew up in a family where we sometimes benefited from these programs. The generosity of the American people is one of the most amazing things about our country.
At least this part.
Of course, just passed tax day. None of us pay our taxes, but we do it. And why do we do it? Because we know that it goes to give a bite, pay. But that trust in our institution, it depends on us taking that trust seriously. How long are people going to pay into programs if they know that money doesn't go to a low-income kid, but that money goes into a fraudster getting rich? This doesn't work, and this doesn't make sense unless we take fraud seriously. So I'm proud to be part of an effort in our government. I'm proud to lead the effort in our government to finally take fraud seriously. We want to protect these programs for the kids and the families who need them. We want to ensure that the American taxpayer isn't getting fleeced. And I'd say just a few months into it, gentlemen, we have done a very, very good job. Let's keep. Let me turn it over now to Andrew Ferguson, who's the executive director.
That's what I was talking to you about.
Ferguson.
Yes, I thought it was Stuart.
Not just because she's my fellow Ohio, and to Kim, who has probably found more fraud and has saved the American taxpayer more money than any single official within the government over the last 3 months. Kim, you have been an all-star. We're glad to have you on the team. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, that homeboy.
Well, I couldn't have put it better than the vice president did. The only reason that what happened today happened is because President Donald Trump took this issue seriously that has plagued this country for decades and is committed to an all-government approach. And so to him is to who the credit goes. But the vice president deserves tremendous credit here. It's hard to get the whole machinery of government moving. You need someone with the vice president's abilities, with his gravitas, and with his determination to drive at these issues. That's the other reason we're here today. And while I'm at it, I want to thank Dr. Oz and Kim Brandt. A lot of the fraud problems are at HHS, and these two have committed countless hours, night and day, their staffs, their resources to getting at these problems and
What,
fixing
Homeland
it.
Security?
And where the states are
HHS?
unwilling to do their
That's
jobs.
where we're sending
and fix
this.
these
No,
problems.
HHS
Dr.
Homeland,
Oz
no.
and Kim have stepped up to take
Health
care of
and
it.
Human
I also was
Services.
not here
Oh,
today, but I
okay,
want to thank March Bell as well.
Man, there's so many
Inspector
damn
General of
acronyms.
HHS.
Yeah.
FBI, CIA,
We're gonna have to do
CIA,
to get the
DEA,
states
DEA, DIA,
It's gonna go through
Oh
March's
my God.
office. That you'll see his signature on the
FEMA,
letter that went to the state Medicaid
DOJ,
units today.
DOD,
There's gonna be a lot of
DOC.
work
Oh,
happening in the
good
IG's office, and
grief.
we're really pleased to partner with them. It's a shame we have to be up here at all, and with all due respect to the press, with this room full of reporters. It should not have taken a brave kid with a cell phone camera
Nick
to
Shirley.
point people at this issue. This is the result of decades of corruption, particularly in blue states like Hawaii, like the vice president was just explaining, California, Minnesota, and New York. Tens of billions of dollars to pay
Minnesota's
lawyers to go
forever
after
getting
Medicaid
thrown
fraud,
under the
but
bus.
just simply have not done it at all. That's the whole point of these programs. We have these cooperative federalism programs. We love federalism. We want to partner with states. We love subsidiarity. But if the states are going to participate in this, they have to protect and they get access to these dollars. And not only Medicaid fraud, I want to shine a light on the real human dimension of the complete negligence and malfeasance of some of these states. The things they are by law to do is stop elder abuse. That is one of the express commands that Medicaid fraud control units are given, is to police Medicaid abuse and elder abuse in the Medicare system too, where so many of America's elderly citizens receive care. And so the states just take this money and turn it into a jobs program for blue state lawyers. They effectively participating in the elder abuse. You are really participating in that process. The
All
vice
right,
president
now I
highlighted
think my
this
wheelchair
problem that we have
will
in Medicaid,
come
which is
and go
if a fraudster
with
takes your
ease.
identity,
No,
signs you up
I mean, I just took all my stuff out of my room and put it in the office.
This is
So,
a problem we have found all over the federal government in benefits.
no clue.
I mean, imagine we have examples of a mother on SNAP
It'll have
benefits
have
going
to
to
have
the
a
grocery
place to
store and
live
trying to scan
where
her
it plugs
EBT card
into
to
the
get
wall.
groceries for her children.
What?
For
Some
charging.
gang
What?
somewhere in California
Wheelchair.
took her identity,
Oh,
maxed out her EBT
that's why
card,
I am
and so
trying
her
to clear out
children
the
are gonna go
area
hungry
from
because
the
of fraud that no one in the state
kitchens,
is policing.
and I want to
That is why
shift
what
the
we are doing
couches,
today is
or at
so
least keep
states
one
should
long
be
one
our
for
partners with this.
the overnight
We want
staff.
to partner with the states, but what we aren't going to do
And then
as stewards
I'm
of the
packing up
American
all the
taxpayer
knickknacks.
is to send
Everything's gone,
those
tables and
dollars,
everything. So
millions of them,
so
to the
there's
states
room for me
to
in the
line the
wheelchair.
pockets of state attorneys general who don't want to participate in protecting our benefits programs so that the people who really need them,
Well, before
the
we
people
go
that
on
the
all
Americans
crazy,
have
let's get
agreed
the
to
thing
part
here
with their
and
hard-earned dollars
test it
to
out.
help, to defend, to protect, and to get through hard times, actually get the money. And if the states don't want to cooperate for the first time, the
I
fraud
see
task
lots of
force, the
room
vice
for it in
president, and
here.
the rest of the federal government are going to tell you,
Because it's going to
cooperate,
spend a lot of
lose your
time in
funds,
here.
and we
Yes.
will do the job for you. Because at the end of the day, if the states don't protect American citizens, the President of the United States and the Vice President will. And that is why I am so honored to be able to participate in this process. Because this is ultimately about making sure not only that we aren't stolen from as taxpayers, but the American people are entitled to this. For Medicaid and for Medicare, people who have paid into these programs their entire lives actually get the benefits that they are entitled to. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Oz to talk about all of the efforts at HHS.
Thank you, Andrew. Mr. President, thank you for the leadership, the spirited desire to harness a group
Should
of
we put his
stallions
name
that are
on
back
with
here. Right
okay?
there. See the men and women who are leading the task
Oz?
force there
Yeah.
in the back of the room, but they've done all
Oz
the
is
work that
like
allows us
his
to
right hand man.
In February, we had the largest anti-fraud announcement from CMS the day after the State of the Union address, in which the president created that task force and appointed vice president to lead it. Today's effort is larger. It's much larger.
Wow.
And there's reason for that. Half of the fraud, we believe, the federal government could be coming out of healthcare services. We're a large rhino that can be stabbed effortless leave by foreign governments. It's a Medicare benefit, which is basically a credit card to defraud the system. Unfortunately, that results in about $100 of estimated death just from Medicare and Medicaid. That, just to put it in the context of affordability, which is a very important subtext of this discussion, we would be able to double the life expectancy of the Medicare Trust Fund if we could deal with the fraud issues just in Medicare. So anyone who's out there working their tail off, hoping Medicare will be there with them and for them, and we know many young Americans don't think that's going to be the case. It will be the case. If you take the fraud out, it'll be there for you and your children as well. And stopping this is a means by saying the Medicare Trust Fund is a noble purpose, but as pointed out by Vice President Mr. Ferguson, it is about the human costs.
We got to raise that name down.
And yes, it's not Stewart, it's Ferguson.
And take your health along the way. So let's transition to the 5 major actions. We'll go through them in order. I'll share them with Kim, who her nickname is Killer Kim. Mr. Vice President, in a second.
Killer Kim in the White House.
Federal employees like Kim out there like bulldogs going after this fraud. It's right there for us to find.
She
if we have
looks like a
partnership with the states,
bulldog.
it'll help a lot. First,
You need a better nickname for her. She's going to work in healthcare.
she's a Buckeye. She's a Buckeye, so I gave her points. Is that a typical name in Ohio?
I don't know.
California Medicaid deferral that the Vice President mentioned is $1.34 billion. Their submissions of Medicare records and the backup estimates are generating major red flags for us. So these records we're allowed to audit looking back for a quarter. Dan Grillman, Capri Snap, who runs the Medicaid program, spearheaded this effort with a great team. We've discovered $630 million in billing from the folks who are egregiously the top 5% of outliers in billing. This is numbers so big you can't imagine anyone billing for these numbers of patients and that much for each patient. And so we're asking California to clarify for us how it got there. Second big area of observation is when you bill within a state, you should be comparable to the states around you. But in California, that's not been the case. In California, the growth of spending in personal care services, in home services, is twice the rate of the average of the rest of the country. Let me say that again. The rest of the country is at one number. California is twice that number in its growth rate. We estimate there's $500 million that could be at risk taken from federal taxpayers. That means people in Ohio, which is a blue state, are paying extra taxes so that California can get away with something that they can't defend. So there's $500 million there we're going to defer so they can show us more convincingly why that's the case. And there's another $200 million that we're stopping in questionable expenditures, much of that linked to immigration-related costs. You know, folks who are undocumented, we're not sure why we're paying for this, and as you know from the Working Families Tax legislation, which I'm going to emphasize, a program that saved Medicaid. In Congress, saved Medicaid with that bill. That became legislation. There's another $2 million at risk there. Added together, $1.34 billion. It's the largest deferral we've ever made. We're making it for a good reason. We'd like the state to at least come to the table and explain to us how outlier payments have been generated. The second major issue is home health care fraud and hospice fraud. So let's just clear this up. Hospice, end of life, designed 40 years, a beautiful program that's designed to take care of you because you have cancer and you're not going to survive more than 6 months.
Not just necessarily, no. Complicated medical health too.
For hospice benefit. So you give up Medicare because why would you want to have coverage for these issues? You're dying. You want to die with dignity and grace. It's a beautiful. Unfortunately, in California and other states, fraudsters stole it and given you hospice you didn't want.
Do you think the Matrix is breaking
You're
out?
not getting care. And you can't even find out what happened because you were in the mix of this. There have been a lot of people complaining about this over the years, including people that should have been listened to, like the Auditor General of California, who in 2022 raised this issue to the current governor, and for some reason they have not taken action. Unfortunately, we have a reality that, again, we got to face. A third of
I
all
might
hospices,
just put
a
all
third
the
of all
boxes from the
programs in
kitchen into
entire
my
country
bedroom.
are in Los Angeles. Ask yourself, how is that
I
possible?
mean,
It's not.
I don't
And
use a
not that many
bedroom.
people dying in Los
What
Angeles.
about
We're talking about
the
California,
garage?
Los Angeles. So
I mean, I don't care. I'm not moving none of this down.
Went through the list of
No, but I mean,
people,
if I
and
was
we
to move
believe
it
that
into
at
the
least
garage.
half of the
I mean,
hospices in the entire
If you
area
learn
of
how to
Los
keep that
Angeles
garage, ever go clean that garage?
800 of those
Spend
hospices
some
have
time
been
on that
suspended.
garage.
That's getting us,
Sure, that too.
close to what we think
What
we
about
should
with the
be.
floor
800
is
hospices that
a
last year
nice
charged the
skating
federal
rink?
taxpayer
Yeah.
$1.4
Right.
billion will no longer be paid. Now, Mr.
See,
Vice
he
President, if
looks
your
like a
core
bulldog.
business was shut down by the federal government,
He's the
would you
one that
call?
went after the fraud bigger and
You would
better
call
than anybody.
crickets. We have less than 20 who have complained. We're not even sure those are legitimate. 800 hospices shut down. And
Oh
we're
my
not hearing
gosh.
much. It's crickets there. So we believe we're on the right path here. Next is a nationwide moratorium on all new hospice and home health care. Why is that possible? Because when we squeeze the balloon in California and slow their growth of hospice and now take away 800, the famous 800 hospices, we know what those fraudsters do. They move to nearby Nevada. Next door, Nevada has a 7-fold increase in hospice already.
We had
They're
less than
moving across the country.
50% of
Today,
the,
there's a moratorium national.
caregivers
No new hospices
recertify
or
and
home
get
health
approved.
in this country.
Less,
You can-
more than half of the applicants that got
no new licenses granted until we can
have
figure out
not,
a better way of working across government. Let me
reapplied yet. It's crazy.
Presidents are chairing this task force. It's very, very simple. You have CMS, you have OIG, Mark Bell sitting over there. You have the Department of Justice. You have the those things together. You make a powerful fist, and that's the fist we're going to punch through bureaucracies and realities that are stuck to people. I'm going to leave you with one last thought, that I'm going to ask Kim to cover some of the issues around the reforms
Yeah, I
and
gotta
Medicaid
put tape
forward
on.
that she's creating. It is that states are all over the place in their desire to partner with the Vice President in this task force. There was a letter sent out 2 weeks ago asking every single state to respond within 10 days to whether or not they would be willing to revalidate their providers. What that means is, if you're providing home health care services, which are unlicensed people providing services in undocumented areas that are unverifiable right now in many instances, basically you're having your kids carry the groceries upstairs for you. These are services your family used to provide for you. We asked all the states to work with us to validate if these are legitimate services from legitimate providers. Every single state responded. So contrary to the narrative,
they said Minnesota didn't.
wants to protect their citizens.
Or at least at
are
first.
brave enough to actually make those steps. And for some reasons, as you heard today, California has been lax in this endeavor. We hope this wake-up call will be heard loudly across the beauty of California, whose people are trying to protect, sometimes from their homes. Kim?
So when we took, it was a little over a year ago, looking at the abuse issue and saw that it was all pay and chase. We were going after money after it was all work. And so we thought there surely has to be a better way. So we created a Medicare fraud war room in real time before they were paid, so that we could determine legitimate. Were there the outliers that we've heard examples of today? And how could, for the past year, since the Medicare room started on March 31st of last year, we've stopped over $2 billion from going out the door just by targeting those high-risk providers. Recently, a couple weeks ago, we've decided to take it a step further, and we're now doing a Medicaid war room. And what's unique about this is it's the first time that we've ever partnered across the board with our law enforcement partners, the HHS-LAG, DOJ, the states, the MFUCAs, the Medicare Fraud Control Units, all working together for the first time to look at Medicaid claims in real time and be able to determine how we can stop those payments from going out the door. To stop the instances of an 89-year-old woman who had over 5,000 skin substitutes, or to stop the types of things that are just really aberrantly ridiculous. So what we've done is we have data analysts, we have forensic auditors, we have law enforcement people, all coming together in a virtual room. It's not an actual room like you think of like on TV, but they're all in a virtual room where they are looking at this in real time and then making determinations about how we can shut those bad guys down and how we can take action. And what has happened is we are now using our administrative authorities, payment suspensions, overpayments, civil monetary penalties, and the HHS OAG exclusion authority to really be able to take action against these people and make it so that we can hopefully bring that money back where it needs to and never let it go out the door. The key is we want to keep it so that it can provide the services for the people who most need it and who most benefit from it, and stop the bad actors from getting all the benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. So, Dr. Oz, I want to make sure I understand this well. So you're saying that we kicked off 800 fraudulent healthcare providers off the Medicare system, and not a single one of them called the government and said, hey, you made a mistake.
We've had a handful of calls. We're not sure they're legitimate yet, but it's less than 20 out of 800, and we're auditing them.
Unbelievable. So at least 780 are not even trying to claim that they're not fraudulent. And again, devoting hundreds of millions, in some cases billions of dollars to services, but to make a fraudster rich. It's just completely insane, the scale and scope of the problem. Okay, we'll take a few questions. I will say the ground rules are, I will take the easy questions. Any hard question, Dr. Oz? Yes.
With NBC News. I want to ask you first on the issue of fraud, as you're saying, administratively withhold those payments for a state's failure to go after bad actors. And I have another question for you.
So to be clear here, we're talking about withholding the Medicaid fraud enforcement payments that go to the state bureaucrats. We're not talking about withholding people's benefits. We're talking about turning off the resources that the state government should be using to police fraud. And then instead, we're going to use those resources ourselves because we're actually taking the fraud issue very seriously. But I do think it raises a very important issue. There are going to be some, I'm sure, some politicians who say what you're doing here is harming the Medicaid program. We're trying to save the Medicaid program from dysfunctional state bureaucrats. If you allow hundreds of millions, billions, even more money to go out the door, not to healthcare services for low-income families, but to fraudsters, you eventually are going to destroy the Medicaid program. So this is why we say red state, blue state, this does not need to be a political or a partisan issue. We want to work with you to eliminate fraud and make these programs last longer for the people who truly need them.
Thank you. And can I ask you, Mr. Vice President, when approaching the war with Iran, do you agree with the president's position that Americans' financial situations should not be a consideration in that decision-making process?
Well, I don't think the president said that. I think that's a misrepresentation of what the president said. But look, I agree with the president that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. We're obviously engaged in a very aggressive and very engaged diplomatic process to try to ensure that that doesn't happen. And the president has a lot of options, as he said repeatedly. There are options diplomatically, there are options on the military side. But the fundamental goal here is the president wants to make the world safe, but particularly the American people safe.
I'm just trying to get my
Iran
camera
having a
set
nuclear
up.
weapon. And one final point I'll say on that is the nuclear proliferation is one of those challenges that people don't realize. It's the biggest threat to America's national security.
How's it going?
And it's not obvious until it is. Because what happens if Iran gets a nuclear weapon? Then
You on the boat?
multiple Gulf Arab countries are going to want to get a nuclear weapon. Then multiple countries from there are going to want to get a nuclear weapon.
Gino.
The goal of preventing nuclear proliferation is probably the single most important thing that we can do to keep our people safe for the long term. It's absolutely a worthy goal. But of course, the president and I and the entire team, we care about the American people's financial situations. It's one of the reasons why we passed the Working Families Tax Cut. It's one of the reasons why we're so focused on fraud. We care about how the American people are doing economically. We've also got a number of other challenges. Of course, the president has to confront all these challenges simultaneously. Yeah.
Edward Lawrence from Fox Business. On fraud, the savings that you find among all of these states, what impact did that have on a federal deficit?
Well, I think it had a very big impact, but a lot of it does depend on how well the states work with us. We think we're going to be much more effective if we're working with California as opposed to fighting California over every $1 billion of Medicaid fraud that exists in their system. And there could be tens of billions, hundreds of billions of fraudulent payments within the California system. If you count what's going to illegal aliens, if you count what's going to people, fraudulent businesses, if you count what's not going to the people who actually need it, but going to fraudsters, we would find that money a lot easier if California was working with us, which is why we've taken some of these steps. And the letters fundamentally are outreach. We're going to the states and saying, here are the things that we can do to work on this issue together. And of course, if they don't work with us, there are going to be penalties. We don't want to get there. We want to work with these guys. You heard Dr. Oz say this earlier. I've looked at the numbers myself. It's true. If you just deal with the fraud issue, you could prolong the Medicare and Medicaid trust funds well into the future. So it does have a significant budgetary impact, whether that's hundreds of billions of dollars or maybe even more. We're not going to know until we do the work, but we're going to do the work.
Yeah, if I could on China.
Let's do one question from each person. Go ahead. We can do both, you guys. You guys can fight for who goes first.
Sure. Mr. Vice President, Reagan Reese with the Daily Caller. What's your reaction to the alleged home health fraud in Ohio, and why do you think this is happening in a red state? And just a question of clarification, You mentioned that some states aren't cooperating. What does that look like? Are they not responding to your calls? Are they stonewalling you guys? If you could expand on that.
So I'll let Dr. Oz go into the details a little bit, but on the Ohio issue in particular, look, this happens everywhere. We're a big country, hundreds of billions of dollars goes out the door every single month from the federal government, and inevitably you're going to have people who try to take advantage of it. What bothers me is not that you have a few fraudsters out there, it's that the government hasn't taken seriously pushback. You're always going to have bad people. You're always going to have a few bad apples try to take advantage of the system. What's so unique about this country until recently is that we didn't take that seriously. We didn't try to push back against the fraud, and that's what's changed. When I talk about cooperating with these various states, and again, we've had some good cooperation with both red states and blue states. It's very context specific. But for example, let's say that we know we have a number of fraudulent Medicare or Medicaid providers. Working with the federal government to identify who those are, to kick them off the rolls so that when those companies, those fraudulent companies submit a reimbursement, they don't actually get any money in return. Now, sometimes the federal government has a better perspective on that. Sometimes the states do. But that's one example of ensuring that local providers that are fraudulent are not able to get reimbursed or not able to get access to the resources. That's just one example. Dr. Oz, I'm sure you probably have 100 more of that brain of yours.
Very succinctly, Minnesota, which we announced the deferment there when the Vice President and I were in this room several months ago, sued us. And we're trying to get them to wake up to a problem. The amount that we deferred was a small percentage of their rainy day fund. They sued us and sought a temporary restraining order. That's not what our partner does. The judge did not give them a temporary restraining order. We're going to California now in part because we couldn't get them to respond on things that we think they should have taken proactive steps on. If they've been warned for at least 4 years by their own auditor general that there's a massive problem with hospice and they don't deal with it, it pollutes the entire ecosystem. It creates corruption that rots the foundation of who we are. So on the 19th of December, after it had gone through all the different processes, the State Department of Health in California was going to mandate by the first of the year that you cannot have more than one hospice per provider. This is a red flag issue. Why would a doctor need to have 20 hospices? Have one hospice, do it right. They do 20 hospices because they're taking bribes, they're selling their license and their soul. For reasons we don't understand, and I'd love to pose that right here to the state of California, someone very senior in their government pulled down that rule, never let it issue, and we never got help from them. That's why we went out the first week of January to say, what's going on here? And we find out that, as Vice President mentioned, the Medicare fraud detection units sometimes are not being enabled to do their jobs. These are the kinds of behaviors that people take when they're trying to hide the ball. And the question I'd love to ask the media to opine amongst yourselves, we're debating it as a task force, is do the governors always feel that fraud in Medicaid is a flaw? Or are there sometimes some reasons why it might be a benefit, it might be a feature of the way they're running Medicaid? The same way we had to stop legalized money laundering through state-directed payments and provider taxes and the working families tax cut legislation, we are concerned that some governors see these programs as jobs programs, and their downstream impact of that resembles political patronage that we're very serious about.
Mr. Vice President,
Yep.
Thank you so much. Leonardo Feldman with Newsweek. Can you tell me a little bit about, the president has been toying this idea of a joint ticket between you and Rubio. What do you think about that?
Oh, man. What I think is there are a few topics that I want to talk about less than what office I'm going to run for years down the road when I'm having a good time and trying to do good work in the job that the American people already elected me to do. Look, as I've answered this question probably in any number of ways. I love Marco. I think he's a great Secretary of State. He's become a very, very dear friend. But I think both of us are very much focused on accomplishing the American people's business right now. If I was the American people, there are a few things that I would hate more than a person who's barely been in one office for a year and a half, who's angling for a job 2.5 years down the road. Let's do a good job now. We just got to keep at it. Go ahead. Oh, God.
I have a broad question. This is Kit with CNN. It's not us who are bringing this up. A couple days ago, Trump made this statement to people in the Rose Garden. Why do you think he does that? Do you think it's a little bit of toying with you both over your succession? Why do you think he brings that up? Just number one.
Well, I just don't think it sounds like the President of the United States to have a televised competition for who would succeed him as his apprentice. I just think that's not at all what you would expect the President to do. But no, I think the president, he's always been fascinated by politics. If you talk to him, he was fascinated by politics 30 years before he ever ran for office. So I think it's natural for him to, joke around with us a little bit, to play around with the idea. But I can tell you the president is as focused as any of us on making sure we do as good of a job now for the American people.
What are you going to be announcing? Are you engaging in good faith with the governor there about efforts? She said that she responded to a CMS letter. Just curious if there's any back and forth between you both.
Yeah, there's been some back and forth. We'd love to have a better conversation, a better relationship, and work very deliberately on this question of fraud. And certainly have an open hand, have an open heart in this White House to working with anybody, including the governor of Maine. I'm not going to tell you everything I'm going to say tomorrow in Maine, because if I did that, why would I go to Maine tomorrow? I'm looking forward to it. It's a beautiful time of year to be in the state of Maine. We're going to campaign a little bit with Paula Page and talk about the fraud efforts that we have going on, and talk about a few other things as well. Thank you.
This is Elizabeth Mitchell with the Daily Signal. The Fraud Task Force and ICE identified more than 10,000 alleged cases of fraud in the optional practical training program. Some Republicans have been calling for this program to end in light of this. Is the Trump administration looking into changes to this program in light of the fraud?
Sorry, changes to which program in particular?
The optional practical training program.
Yeah, so we're looking into a lot of this stuff. And, the fundamental question, obviously, is we want to save the American people money, but we're also trying to preserve programs that exist for the benefit of the American people. We're also trying to make sure that we do this in a way that's defensible, that's not going to get challenged in a court, or if it does get challenged in a court, where we can defend things. So, Dr. Oz, you want to say anything about that particular program? We're looking at everything. I will tell you that once a week I get an update from Andrew and from the team on the number of things that we found in the anti-fraud task force, and it's kind of shocking. People, I go on the road and talk to, a lot of folks out there. I was in Iowa last week, and one of the most common questions I got was, is the anti-fraud thing, is it hard? And I'm almost confused by the question, because unfortunately, there's so much fraud in the federal government. There was so much that we allowed to accumulate over the 4 years of the Biden administration, and frankly, probably over 40 years of bad American governance. There is so much fraud for us to go after. What we're trying to do is go after the highest value targets and the things that preserve these programs for the American people. Yes, sir.
Thank you. You said that administrators they don't care, or that they're neglectful with the funding, but does your team think that there are bureaucrats in federal or state governments who are actually complicit in helping fraudsters?
Well, we think it's possible, right? I don't want to prejudge these things, but we've certainly seen reports.
Did I even
for
get
example, Gavin Newsom in California or Tim Walz in Minnesota.
It doesn't seem like it.
That there were fraudulent activities happening in their states, and they're looking the other way. Whether that rises to the level of criminal conduct, I don't know. We're certainly looking into it, because as much as we
It should be.
these programs, we also care about
Unethical.
federal and state
Of course it's a crime.
violating the law. And if they are violating the law,
A doctor would get sued.
important part of the law. So we're looking into this stuff, but I can't commit to it, because in the last administration, we typically prosecute people when they've actually violated the law, not just because they have the wrong political affiliation. Yeah, go ahead.
Dead Americans on food stamps, you mentioned the other day.
Dead Americans on food stamps.
Dead Americans, to your knowledge, are receiving food stamps. Are you confident that you can get that number down to zero?
Well, I want to be clear, I don't actually think 186,000 dead Americans are receiving food stamps, because that would be impossible. I don't think that we have 186,000 ghosts walking into the grocery store and achieving benefits. I think that we have people who are claiming that they are getting food stamp benefits. They're using the identity of a dead person. So it's very much a living person. It's a living fraudster who's stealing the identity of a dead American. I just want to be very clear about that. But look, we know this is happening. We think that it's costing the American people hundreds of billions of dollars. By the way, another big cost of fraud is that it drives up the cost of goods for everybody. Because if you've got hundreds of billions of dollars chasing food that is going to dead Americans, living fraudsters, that's going to raise costs for everybody. So it actually is one of these things that has multiple victims, including the fact that it's driving up the cost of good for other Americans.
And on the China
all the way to the
summit,
back. No, sorry, man. You got two, I think. I really like your jacket, but still only one question. I'm going to stick to my rule here.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Daniel Baldwin, One American News. You spoke a little bit about states cooperating, and that was a big theme the first time you and Dr. Oz came here and spoke to us about the Minnesota Medicare payments.
Sure.
You referenced Maryland as a blue state that's cooperating. You mentioned red states that were cooperating. Have you guys been successful in putting up any guardrails with states that have cooperated thus far?
I've blushed every time.
Well,
I hear them say that.
is the one that we announced today,
No, and I know
which is that
whistleblower.
if you have all of this money that's going for Medicare fraud prevention or Medicaid fraud prevention,
But,
and you're not actually using it,
they
we'll actually
literally
take that money
could have
back and use it with our
killed me.
prosecutors and our investigators to ensure that we're actually
It's
looking
not
at fraud.
funny, like,
And then what that would do
in
eventually
that sense,
is it
excuse
would
me?
allow us to actually engage in some other enforcement actions. If they're not taking the anti-fraud stuff seriously, then there are some additional steps that we can take beyond that. I think the approach that we've tried to take really has been collaborative. We've tried to identify with the states, here are some examples of some very bad fraud, here are some things that you can do to fix it, here are some ways that we're willing to use our resources to help you. And again, most states have been pretty good. There have been a few, unfortunately, very large states that collect a lot of money in federal revenue. And I think a lot of
Is Minnesota one of them?
have political leadership
We are?
that doesn't like the idea of cooperating with a Republican administration, even though it's a very common sense, good government principle. I think you have some people who know that a lot of their constituencies, maybe some of their donors are getting rich from fraud, but regardless, red state or blue state, we're going to go after it. We have to. This is so important. We are not going to have a generous country if Americans think that they're paying their taxes not to needy people, but to fraudsters. That's fundamentally what we're trying to fix, is rebuilding America's trust. That when you pay your taxes, when you send money to a program, it's actually going to the people it's supposed to go to. It's a fundamental principle of good governance. It shouldn't be anything Republican or Democrat. It's just good government. Yep. Go ahead.
Taylor at Spectrum, good to see you.
Good to see you.
You've emphasized a lot how you want this not to be partisan, and you're going to look at red and blue states. The president, when he posted about you becoming the fraud czar last month, he wrote, the focus will be everywhere, but primarily in those blue states where crooked Democrat politicians have had a free-for-all.
Walls and Ellison.
Do you worry that the president's
Klobuchar is getting thrown under the bus too.
And that could lead to resistance?
No, I don't worry about that because he's talking about crooked governors. And of
Oh,
course, if you have a crooked governor,
and
they're not going to work
Elon,
with us, and we're going to have to use other tools to ensure that they do. But I think
Elon
there
is
are a
getting
lot of
tossed under the
Democrats,
bus.
and Republicans
Walls is
recognize that this is a very
between
serious problem, that we're offering
Walls
resources to try to help solve that problem.
and,
I think a lot of them recognize that,
Klobuchar
maybe a few
and
crazy
Elon,
people
they're all
that are
throwing each other under the bus.
but
Oh,
most
yeah.
people, most Americans want to solve this problem, and I've actually been gratified by the fact that we've gotten a lot of cooperation from across the political spectrum. One other point about cooperation, we're not there yet, but one of the things we're going to do on the fraud task force is, look, we're learning. We're learning a lot about the way the government operates. I mean, Andrew I almost feel bad for him sometimes because he comes to me once a week and says, here's this bureaucratic hurdle, or here's a wall that I'm running into that I would have never known even existed until we started to take this fraud stuff very seriously. So we've learned a lot over the last 6 months. We are eventually going to realize that there are tools that we do not have, that there are things that we need to do, and Congress is going to have to step in and cooperate on us. I think that's going to be a big question of bipartisanship and common sense is when we identify some tools that we need to more fully go after the fraud problem, is Congress willing to play ball, or are they going to fight us every step of the way? I hope they play ball. Partisanship is crazy in this town, but again, this is such a common sense thing.
18.
Would want to protect
My hands and the feet don't know what to do. Oh my God.
Jennifer Jacobs, CBS
I'm
News.
gonna-
On Iran,
19.
can you tell us where negotiations stand? The president, before he left for Beijing, called the latest proposal unacceptable. So is
20.
the U.S. even talking to the Iranians
my
right now? Or
goodness.
where are things at this point?
Yeah, so
You got through
look,
it.
obviously these negotiations are very sensitive. I'm not going to tell you everything because we're trying to have a productive conversation. I spent a good amount of time on the phone with both Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff this morning, a number of our friends in the Arab world this morning. Look, I think that we are making progress. The fundamental question is, do we make enough progress that we satisfy the president's red line? And the red line is very simple. He needs to feel confident that we've put a number of protections in place such that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. Right? That is the question. Do we meet that threshold or not? I think that we've made a lot of progress since we left Pakistan. I thought we made some progress in Pakistan, but we've made more since then. But that is fundamentally what we're negotiating towards, is we want to be able to look the American people in the eye and say with confidence that you are not going to have to worry about this very, very dangerous regime having access to the most dangerous weapons in the world. That's the goal that we're focused on. Again, there's a lot of ways to accomplish that goal. The president has set us off on the diplomatic pathway for now, and that's what I'm focused on. Yep. We'll do a couple more here.
Thanks a lot. There was pushback from Senate Republicans yesterday at the Congress meeting about the cost of the ballroom, which is ballooned to about $1 billion for the security aspect. Is there an IG, either for GSA or the Treasury, who would or should be eyeballing that project? And how to make sure it doesn't balloon like some of these other government spending?
Yeah, apparently there was some
position
or
the nature of the project,
mention or something that
who look at this, who look at
they
the
don't want him to host
the President of the United States is a very good builder. And the reason why this is expensive is not because
I know, but they
the reason
petitioned
this is expensive is
for him.
because
They tried to shut it down.
Yeah.
A judge actually said that he couldn't do it.
Oh, okay.
They ignore that shit,
on the White House,
which is what they should do.
What could happen when you gather the President of the United States and a number of people who are in the line of succession in the same room? We almost had something very terrible happen. And thanks to the Secret Service and their incredibly quick response, we didn't have a terrible thing happen. But one of the things it's taught us is that we've got to update. And there are things, frankly, I wouldn't even talk about in a public forum. There are parts of the international, right, there are parts of our national security, and there are parts of the international sort of world that are very, very dangerous, and the president needs to be protected. The senior officials in our government need to be protected, and that's fundamentally what this is all about, is ensuring that on the White House grounds, we have what's necessary to protect the president, whether he's engaged in a state dinner, which of course is an important part of the president's functions, or whether he's engaged in the day-to-day functions of being president of the United States. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. My question is, what's your message to Americans as the Iran war continues to impact the economy, especially after yesterday's inflation report?
Well, I guess my message to Americans is we know that we have a lot of work to do in order to deliver on the prosperity that the American people deserve. The president is hyper aware of this. I'm hyper aware of this. We talk about it all the time. We know that the American people inherited a very bad inflation crisis. Yes, the inflation number last month was not great, but take it back to the May of 2023 of the Biden administration, or take it back to even further. We're not seeing anything like what we saw under the Biden administration, and that's a problem in and of itself. Because what it means is that a lot of Americans saw their wages eat away under the Biden administration. They saw the values of their paycheck eat away during the Biden administration. And one of the things we were elected to do, of course, was to fix that problem. And I promise you the president is laser focused every day on fixing that problem. Now, what I will also say is that whether it's the working families tax cuts, putting more money in the pockets of the American people,
for tonight?
it's bring a lot of investment
You are?
in the United States so we can build the factories and the jobs in the future.
Oh,
The
it's
president's
10 o'clock already?
focused. This
Oh
stuff
my
does take
goodness.
time. And the same
How
way
am
the
I
Biden
still
administration's
awake?
inflation crisis ate away at workers' paychecks for 4 years. It's going to take us a little bit of time before we get workers in a position where we feel like we can look them in the eye and say,
Oh
you
my
are
gosh,
much,
my
much
legs
better
are in
off. But
fatigue.
that's what we're trying to do. We're going to keep on working at it. I think we made a lot of progress. If you look at the average household wage increase since Donald Trump became president, it's gone up. But we came from
I don't have a printer. All my stuff is still packed.
People, the Biden administration, we're digging ourselves out of it. And what I
something
want
printed?
is for us to completely dig out of that hole and then to build a brighter and better and more prosperous future for the American people. That's what they elected us to do, and that's very much what we're focused on. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Can we quantify the amount of fraud that's related to illegal immigrants? And what are the asks of California and these other states? What can they do to claw back some of this money that's being deferred?
You know, I don't know that you can quantify it because it's so hard to keep track of all of
And
the
we'll swap
criminal
spots
migrants
just
who
for
are
a
taking
minute?
advantage
Yeah,
of our
actually,
system. I mean, they're taking
it's not
advantage by,
Microsoft, it's
you know,
Open
the average
Office.
criminal
Open
migrant that
Office.
we have in an American prison is costing us $60,000 to $120,000 a year.
Okay,
depending
I
on the
mean,
location.
I know what my
They're collecting
problem is,
healthcare benefits.
but
a couple of states, California,
Here's
New York
Open
Can my-
Office down here.
they
Okay.
actually allow
Can-
illegal
hello?
aliens to benefit
my
from the
joints
American
like
people's,
this,
healthcare
and
programs,
this,
which is just
my
a disgrace
wrists,
and just a travesty.
this,
If you go to an
this,
emergency
ankles
room, you
hurt
should
because
know
of
that
old
you're waiting
age,
in line with other
but
American
not overnight,
citizens,
like mine
with
happened.
people who've been
Yeah.
placed
Okay,
at the front
but
of
I
the
mean,
line
oh, but is
by
that what?
fraudulent Medicaid program
that
in California, but that's what's happening.
old
We know
age
this is what's happening.
issue
And
is
again, it's
in
driving up costs for
in
everybody.
people's
It's
joints.
making it harder to access
That's people that get
healthcare.
arthritis.
And it's
I don't have
absolutely
any problems
fleecing
like
the American
that.
taxpayer. It's
Oh.
a lose-lose proposition. You know, I've seen efforts to try to quantify
Okay,
this. I think the answer
do you
is
want to open
hundreds
something
of
that already
millions of dollars
exists and
a year,
edit it?
whether it's
I don't
300 or 600,
think-
a lot of money.
I think this
between
was done
Medicare,
when my
Medicaid,
my
food stamps,
office was set
prison
up.
fees,
Okay,
everything
so
that
you don't
goes
think
into
that's gonna
the
save?
criminal
I don't
microeconomy of
think
the United
so.
States of
Okay, so you
America.
want to start
It's
with a
a
new
lot of money.
text document.
And again,
Well,
I talk about the
here's
American
open
people.
office. You
We're a
got your
generous country.
choice of
We're
tools.
generous people. I
You're
love
very
that about this
familiar.
country. But part of that generosity is that it extends to our
Do you want to
fellow
sit in that one or
Americans.
this one?
We cannot
That
give Medicare and Medicaid benefits to everybody all over the world.
Where's
It's going
my-
to bankrupt those programs. They ought to belong to Americans first. And that, to me, is the fundamental meaning of America First, is that all of us take a look at our programs, take a look at the fraud, and we say,
Oh, so-
how do we ensure that the
So
federal
how
government
fast does my
works for the
wheelchair
American
go?
people first? That's what we're doing every single day. We're going to keep at it. Thank you, guys.
Oh my gosh, this breeze feels amazing.
I know, isn't it?
I'm gonna kick you out of the window.
Well, it's the north wind.
No, I don't care. It's amazing.
His remarks there, he was able to hold that press conference. We had been waiting for that to start sometime. But he's there for the anti-fraud task force that has now withheld $1.4 billion in
Maximum
federal funding.
speed,
We did just
5
lose that
miles
shot
per
there.
hour.
Sorry about that here on Live Now from Fox.
That's
Gonna
a
put this back
jog.
up on the screen as we were wrapping up. A little bit more about what Vice
Now,
President
it's got
J.D.
2
Vance
motors.
discussed.
But
And
that's
so
what
we
it's
do know that
governed
Vice
to.
President
They've
Vance
governed it down to
anti-fraud
Bullshit, because when I went
$4 billion
for the assessment and fitting, whatever, they said they can make my wheelchair go up to 70 miles an hour.
Up to 70?
That is now
Yeah.
targeting operations in California, Minnesota, and several other
Say,
states.
do
We
me
did hear
30
from
and
Vice
see how it
President Vance
feels.
talking a lot more about that.
We don't have to
Ultimately
put
trying to
wheelie
convey
bars
what
on it
they're
right
going to be
away.
paying attention to in the next few months. But at the very end,
Of course,
there,
with
Vice
6
President
wheels,
Vance
I
took
don't
the
think,
time
I
to
kind of
do a
think the
general
wheelie bars
question
are
and
there
answer
already.
session, as he
Yeah.
does sometimes
Yeah.
during some of those events.
Because the 2
So we talked
big
about a
wheels
whole
in
host
the
of
middle
issues, and we wanted to
are
bring
the
that to
drive
you in
wheels.
full here on Live Now from
And
Fox.
then they've got
One of the shows when they were
2 more
interviewing
sets
people,
of wheels,
they were all
smaller
angry at
wheels,
the Democrats for
casters.
saying, they're actually angry at Schumer.
For
I didn't think
stability.
anyone knew his name. One woman said, that Schumer is disgraceful. He's a disgrace to our country. But they're angry at the Democrats. They know what's happening. But they're punishing the American people, including travelers at airports, all in the quest to return to open borders and give amnesty to illegal alien criminals. They want to give amnesty to some of the criminals that came into our country. Just about all of them, actually, if you look at it. They love sanctuary cities, which is a sanctuary for criminals. They want to make sure they're taken care of. That's what we're fighting about. That's really what they're fighting. They don't talk about that, but that's what they're fighting about. They want to protect criminals. In many cases, 11,888 murders. Many of them, I will say, are gone now because of us. We got them out. But still have some left. Should have never happened. Should have never been allowed to come into our country. But we're not going to let it happen. We're not going to let the Democrats get away with this stuff. And people are wise to them. So they need to end the shutdown immediately, or we'll have to take some very drastic measures. This morning, I want to give an update on the Operation Epic Fury, which is an appropriate name because we are absolutely obliterating them.
This is
For the past 3 weeks,
It's
we've been
is that Hexa?
hitting around
No, that's,
military
and
capabilities
Rubio.
at a level that
yes,
people have never seen
Seth and
before.
Rubio.
People
That's
never
right.
knew there was
Right and left hand
such a
man.
capability. We have the strongest military anywhere in the world by far.
Rubio's his right hand
I
man.
built it during my first
Big Seth's on
administration,
his left.
and I used it during my second administration. Unfortunately, because I'd rather not have to use it. But it's a display of force and precision and skill like nothing the world has really witnessed, although you got pretty good witnessing of it in Venezuela also. And that was a smaller version of what we're doing now. We're crushing their missiles and drone stockpiles, destroying the defense industrial base. We've wiped out their Navy completely, their Air Force completely. We've wiped out a large percentage of their missiles. And the missile launchers.
So he
without
kept
the launchers,
saying
you can't-
Navy,
the missiles don't do
Army,
any
or
good.
whatever.
We knocked out probably
I
close to
thought the
90% of the
Iranians
launchers. Probably
were
more than
bad,
90%
that
of
they
the
didn't
missiles
have,
themselves, between some they fired and
ranches like we do,
more than they fired we knocked out.
or official
We've
armies.
also destroyed a lot of the factories. We're
IRGC.
continuing to do that, but a lot of the
And
factories
they
where
had
they manufacture
a
the drones and
significant
the
navy.
missiles. The
It
drones
was
too are way
dwarfed
down.
the navies of the
The
countries
reason they're
around
down
them.
is they go one way and they don't come back, because for the most part we're shooting them down. But we also are able to, we've really done tremendous damage to the places where they make them. And just so we set the record straight, because I've been watching the Wall Street Journal's fake news and all these stories that get printed like, oh, I want to make a deal. They are begging to make a deal, not me. They're begging to make a deal. And anybody that saw what was happening over there would understand why they want to make a deal. But
Trying
they
to
say,
see what
oh, we're
those
not
last
talking to
four
them. Anybody would
digits
know that, right?
are
Anybody-
after my
They
zip
don't-
code.
They're not fools. They're very smart.
And it looks like
and they're great negotiators.
different
I say they're
carriers
lousy
have the
fighters, but
same,
they're great
same thing,
negotiators.
so.
They're begging to work out a deal. I don't know if we'll be able to do that. I don't know if we're willing to do that. They should have done that 4 weeks ago. They should have done it 2 years ago. Or they should have done it when we first came into office, because 2 years ago they had free reign under Biden. Sleepy Joe, worst president in the history of our country. What he allowed to happen to our country at the borders, and even with a thing like this. But not just him. Every president for 47 years, every president should have done this. They should have done it a long time ago, because you cannot give lunatics a nuclear weapon, and they would have had a big one. It stopped really when we did the B-2, but even before that, the Barack Hussein Obama, what he did where he gave them the Iran nuclear deal, gave them free will toward a nuclear weapon. Basically, he chose Iran over Israel and others that didn't want him to do it. But I terminated that deal. Had I not terminated that deal, you would have had a nuclear weapon years ago and it would have been used, guaranteed. And one of the reasons you know about the guarantee is because their neighbors were sort of like bystanders. They weren't involved very much. They didn't choose heavy sides. They didn't want to, because people were concerned with Iran. There was a big black cloud over the Middle East. They were concerned, but all of a sudden the war starts, and they start shooting at these five, in particular, 5 countries. They start shooting at Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, Oman. They start shooting at them, and everybody was shocked, including us. You know why? Because they're sick, and they had a plan to take over the Middle East. And some of those missiles that were shot at them were locked long before we even started this process. They were locked and loaded and aimed at those countries. They wanted to take over the Middle East, but we happened to come along, so it wasn't so easy. So right now their navy is sunk in the largest elimination of a foreign navy that has taken place, maybe ever, but certainly since World War II. Their air force is gone. Their anti-aircraft and communications capabilities are totally dismantled. And one of the problems they do have when they deal with us is we deal with people, and that people aren't able to communicate with anybody else. You know, because all of their leadership has been gone. The first level is gone, and they meant to pick a new level, and they're gone. They're all gone. Because they didn't make a deal, and because they're sick people. They're really sick. They're really sinister, sick people. And if anybody thinks it was okay to have a group of people like this to have nuclear capability, nuclear weapons, and we didn't attack with the B-2 bombers, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks of that, maybe 4 weeks. But between 2 and 4 weeks, they were planning to have a nuclear weapon, and we didn't hit them at that time with the B-2 bombers. And one of the great air raids in history, maybe the greatest. Dark at night, no moon, no light. Every single bomb hit its mark and just obliterated that place. So it's now buried deep under earth. And it was an amazing thing, but they would have a nuclear, and they would have used it without question. And you know that because why did they shoot all these countries that weren't even really involved with them? They weren't involved. They had no big problems because they're sick. because they wanted to take over the Middle East, not just Israel. Certainly Israel would have been the first on their list. They would have used nuclear weapons. A nuclear, you don't need too many of them. But they would have used a nuclear weapon on Israel, and they would have used it on the neighbors, and then they would have come after us. And if we had a weak president, they would have done great damage. But fortunately, you don't have a weak president. I knew what was happening. And I think we've been proven right. You know, they took one missile, went 2,500 miles. They supposedly didn't have a missile like that. They had no missile with that capability. But they shot the now famous Ireland, the island that the UK was very afraid to give us because they didn't want to get dragged in. But we don't want to get dragged into their wars either. You know? One thing we're very disappointed, I'll say it publicly, we're very disappointed with NATO because NATO has done absolutely nothing. And I've always said, 25 years ago, I mean, I was somebody that wasn't a politician, but I was always involved in politics and I understood politics. I said 25 years ago that NATO's a paper tiger, but more importantly, that we'll come to their rescue, but they will never come to ours. And I want you to remember that we said this. They didn't come to our rescue. Now they all want to help. When they're annihilated, the other side is annihilated. They said, we'd love to send ships. They actually made a statement, a couple of them, that we want to get involved when the war's over. No, it's supposed to get involved with the war's beginning, or even before it begins. We had the UK say that we'll send, this is 3 weeks ago, we'll send our aircraft carriers, which aren't the best aircraft carriers, by the way. They're toys compared to what we have. But we'll send our aircraft carrier when the war is over. I said, oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. Don't bother. We don't need it. And we don't need it. We don't need them. We estimated it would take approximately 4 to 6 weeks to achieve our mission. And we're way ahead of schedule. If you look at what we've done in terms of the destruction of that country, I mean, we're way ahead. Think of it. They have no Navy. And they had good ships. 154 ships have been shot there and are resting very nicely at the bottom of the sea. And we did that in a matter of less than a week. Because we have the greatest military in the world by far. Nobody even close. So we estimated it would take approximately 4 to 6 weeks to achieve our mission. 26 days in, we're extremely, really a lot ahead of schedule. The Iranian regime is now admitting to itself that they have been decisively defeated. They're saying to people, this is a disaster. They know it. That's why they're talking to us. And they wouldn't talk otherwise. But they're talking to us because they've got a disaster on their hands. They're defeated. They can't make a comeback. We're free to roam over their cities and towns and destroy all of their crazy nuclear weapons and missiles and drones that they're building. And we're doing that. They now have a chance to make a deal, but that's up to them. And they'll tell you, we're not negotiating. We will not negotiate. Of course they're negotiating. They've been obliterated. Who wouldn't negotiate? They are begging to make a deal. We'll see if we can make the right deal. And if they make the right deal, then the strait will open up. Hormuz Strait will open up. And even now, we don't know if there are any mines. You know, they have 22 they call mine droppers. Think of it. Who would have 22 mine droppers? There's a boat that drops mines. Who has 22 mine droppers? Except for people with very evil intention. So every one of those mine droppers has been struck with the same weapon we used to stop drugs from coming into the United States of America. When we hit those boats, it's the exact same weapon, extremely effective. We have unlimited supplies and extremely effective. But they have no more mine droppers. By the way, speaking of drugs, we're 98% down drugs coming in by water, by the ocean, by the sea. 98%. And we're trying to find out who are the 2% because we think they're the bravest men anywhere in the world. Maybe women. But whoever's on those boats is very brave or doesn't watch television. But where drugs coming in by sea, coming in by water, are 98% down. And now we'll stop the drugs coming in by land. The land is the easy one. You had to stop the water. A lot of it came into the water. Now it's all pinched, and these people are trying to come in by land, and we will.
Have you
That's
saved
the easy one. But we had to take care of the water first. Nobody's coming. Virtually nothing is coming in anymore. It was hundreds of millions of dollars a week were coming in by water. They now have the chance, that is Iran, to permanently abandon their nuclear ambitions and to chart a new path forward. We'll see if they want to do it. If they don't, we're their worst nightmare. In the meantime, we'll just keep blowing them away, unimpeded, unstopped. Well, there's not a thing they can do about it. They can't do anything about it, you know. I'll tell you, if they could, you'd be hearing about it. You'd be hearing about it. You don't hear anything about it. They can't shoot our jets. We have the best military equipment in the world, not even a contest. You see that with Venezuela? They had other equipment, they didn't have ours. It didn't work. Think of it. We did a situation in Venezuela. It was a great military operation, getting a very, very dangerous man who's killed a lot of people, forced people into our country. Incredible. He emptied his prisons in Venezuela, emptied his prisons into our country, and I hope that charge will be brought at some point, because that was a big charge that hasn't been brought yet. It should be brought. He emptied his prisons into our country and was a major purveyor of drugs coming into our country. And he's now been captured and, I guess be given a fair trial. But I would imagine there are other trials coming, because they've really sued him just in a fraction of the kind of things that he's done. Other cases are going to be brought, as you probably know. In the meantime, with Iran, we're going to keep doing what we've been doing, and nobody's a match for the United States, but they're not a match for the United States. It's small potatoes. That's why I'm so disappointed in NATO, because this was a test for NATO. This was a test. You can help us. You don't have to. If you don't do that, we're going to remember. Just remember this in a number of months from now. Remember my statements. They have an expression, a great expression, never forget. Never forget. So as we end threats to America abroad, we're focused here at home on building the greatest economy in the history of the world. Now, before this started, the Dow hit 50,000. The S&P hit 7,000. Both of those achievements were not achievable. Every one of you, most of you, I guess, said you'll never hit 50,000 during a 4-year period because it was too high a number. Well, we hit it in our first year. And I said, well, now we have to take an excursion to Iran, and we have to stop this maniac who's no longer with us. The supreme leader wasn't so supreme, no longer with us. It's very sad. But we have to stop him from blowing up the world, blowing up the Middle East, and blowing up our country. And we did that. And frankly, I thought the oil prices would go up more, and I thought the stock market would go down more. It hasn't been nearly as severe as I thought. I think they have confidence in maybe the American president and maybe the people sitting around this table. But Americans filing their taxes this year are receiving record-setting refunds. It's been a very big story. Well, it should be a big story. I don't think you read about it that much, but I speak about it. I speak about it because if I speak about it, at least people here, you don't write about it. You don't write about the prices going down 30, 40, 50, 60%, 70%. Favored nations, called most favored nations, we're going to be paying the lowest price anywhere in the world. Before we paid the highest price in the world, Bobby, right? And now we're going to pay the lowest price in the world. That's quite a difference. It's a difference of from 40 to 70 and 80 and even 90%. That's a pretty big difference. But we're slashing regulations, and investment is pouring in from all over the world. We have the most investment of any country in history has been put into our country in the last year. And again, we had to take a little detour. Won't be long. Going to end soon. We had to take a little detour, go to Iran, and we had to put out a fire. Very dangerous fire that could have blown up big portions of the world, if not the whole thing. So tomorrow we'll be announcing a variety of actions that we're taking to support American farmers. We never forget, we love the farmers. We gave them $12 billion out of tariff money. We had a tremendous amount of tariff money come in. And we continue to have. We've gone, as you know, the Supreme Court gave us a very unfortunate, foolish ruling. A ruling that gives the people that have ripped off our country for many years, gives them some money back. It's one of those things. It's a terrible, terrible, horrible mistake they made, but it's okay because we have another method that's just as good. We'll use the other method. But because the tariff money has been so substantial, we gave our farmers who have been mistreated by some countries, we gave them $12 billion. And they're extremely happy, and they deserve it. They've been great. They never complain. They just go out and they farm, and they wouldn't do anything different. They wouldn't trade jobs with any of you, except maybe some of the fake media. I don't know. Some I don't see that. I like their job better, actually. I love the farmers. So we gave them $12 billion. So in just a few moments, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent will discuss the actions that we're taking to address energy prices, which have not gone up as much as I thought, Scott, to be honest with you. And you know, it's not over, so maybe it'll go up a little bit more. It's all going to come back down to where it was, and probably lower. And my predictions have been right. Trump was right about everything. They had a new hat. Trump was right about everything. It's pretty right. But Scott's going to address that. And I think before we go very much further, I want to ask Vice President J.D. Vance to say a few words about where we are with the situation. He's involved with Steve and with Janet on negotiations, and then some of the others will speak. We'll have Marco say a few words. Pete Hegseth, who was born for this role. I mean, he's doing a great job. They gave him a hard time. And now people, I'll tell you, somebody came up to me yesterday and gave you a very hard time, said, you know, I made a mistake. Pete Hegseth is doing a good job. So when I tell you who, you're not even going to believe it. He said, Hegseth, he gave you such a nasty hard time.
He gets out there and does
But you're doing all
He
right.
showed it. I mean, he runs
And
with them.
then Steve is going to speak.
Does
And
weights,
Scott will speak.
push-ups, the whole. He
If
trains.
we have any questions, we'll take some
He
questions.
stays in that kind of ready-made shape.
So, JD, please.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you. It's good to see everybody. Proud to be part of this team. Proud to be serving the president of the country. Let me just say a couple things. The first of all is the president summarized this very ably. But look, the Iranian conventional military is effectively destroyed. They don't have the Navy. They don't have the ability to hit us like they could have even a few weeks ago. What that does is that gives us options, Mr. President. Now, there's been a lot of reporting about diplomatic options, about negotiations. There's, of course, Pete and his team. There are further military options. But what we have now that we didn't have when the president took over just a little over a year ago is the ability to use every tool at our disposal to ensure that Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon. Because when I say options, I think it's important the American people know options for what? And it's options to ensure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon. You talk about people who walk into a crowded supermarket and have a vest on, and they blow up the vest and a couple of people get killed, and that's a terrible tragedy. What happens when what's on the vest is not something that can kill a couple of people, but can kill many, many tens of thousands of people? That is the most important American national security objective that exists for any administration at any time, is you don't want the worst people in the world to have a nuclear weapon. That's why the president is doing this. That's why the president cares so much about this particular issue. I'll let Steve talk a little bit about the details of the negotiation, but the last thing I'll say before I turn it over to Marco is I'm very mindful, of course, that we have a lot of folks overseas fighting very ably for the United States of America, and Pete and the whole team, we're very proud of them. But they're fighting at a time where we're about to enter as Christians the most important week of the Christian calendar, the Holy Week that celebrates the return of Jesus Christ to Jerusalem. And so I want to say to all of my fellow American Christians,
I thought that was earlier this year.
Blessed Easter.
I know, this isn't,
very blessed
this is
Holy
old.
Week, and
Oh,
we continue
okay.
to stand behind you and continue to support you every step of the way. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Marco?
It's well worth
The most
watching
important
again.
job any president has is to keep the American people safe. And every president says it, but we have a president that means it and does something about it.
As the president outlined very clearly to the world on the night this operation began, Iran has been at war with the United States for 47 years. For 47 years, Iran has been killing Americans and attacking Americans across this planet. And other presidents had an opportunity to do something about it. And they all warned about how Iran was dangerous, but they refused to act. And this president's not someone that's going to refuse to act. He's not going to leave a danger like this in place. He's going to address it, and that is what he is doing. From the very first night of this operation, the president made it very clear. People like this, and now what I'm talking about is not the people of Iran. The people that run this country are radical Shia clerics. These are religious fanatics. Look what they are doing now. At their weakest point, this is the weakest Iran has ever been, and look at what they're doing. They're attacking embassies. They're attacking hotels. Imagine what these people would do if they had a nuclear weapon. That is an unacceptable risk for the world. By the way, the president's not just doing a favor to the United States and to our people. This is for the world. He defined very clearly on the first night of this operation what the goal was. We were going to destroy Iran's navy, and that is happening. We were going to, if it hasn't already happened, I'll let Pete speak to the specifics of it.
So
we were going to destroy
I accidentally hit some kind of button, and I kind of like this, so I finished with the 3. Now I don't want that for the next.
Single objective the president clearly laid out in the first night of this operation being effectuated. Again,
hit enter real quick.
Specifics of it.
See where it has 4 on it?
You don't want that, use backspace.
I know, but I don't know how I put it on there.
Oh, well, bullets is right here. Did
Just
you
saying.
not want that?
No, not, that one is fine.
Yeah.
But after that, I don't want no more.
So all you do is backspace.
So
I
then
think.
can,
Let's save this before you go too far.
and then can you do this, the rest of this?
Okay.
No, not this,
Right.
because I'm done with all that.
Like this and not allow it to continue to persist.
Done.
Because these people will kill as many Americans as they have a chance to do. And if they have a nuclear weapon, as the vice president pointed out, they could kill millions. And that is a risk that was not going to continue to exist as long as.
And what is this document? Your critical information?
Just, yeah.
Yesterday I was watching.
I'm not saving it without a good name.
Okay.
And he
You
was
want to be
saying
able to
that they
find
should have
it.
done it. But they didn't do it. Nobody did it.
Critical hot
Nobody did
sheet?
it. For 47 years, Marco, that's the number, 47.
Oh,
Because now it's 48. Because we've been saying 47 for a long time. It's probably 48. For 47, 48 years.
Things are starting to misbehave
Every
here.
president should have done this. And
Okay, that's.
some are saying now that they made a big mistake in not doing it, but we're taking care of business. Steve Woodcock, please.
Emergency contacts.
Mr. President, it is my distinct honor to be a member of your cabinet and to report to you and your team.
Well, we are
negotiations with
definitely
Iran.
amping up
Mr. President,
that
you directed Jared and I to pursue
5 miles an
diplomatic
hour
resolution with Iran
BS.
prior to Operation Epic Fury,
Yeah, I want to know how to
which we did. However,
adjust
it
the
became
governor.
quite clear.
Yeah,
It's got a
just
governor.
take it out.
that the
Of course, it'll
Iranian
void the warranty, but.
Well, yeah, can you have my
that
vape,
we could
please?
not
Oh
make
my
deals
gosh,
to
my
fulfill
left
the
arm is starting to hurt.
objectives of the following.
I am starting to
No
over.
enrichment
I
whatsoever.
don't understand how I'm overusing my body that I am so used to having to push my body hard on manual labor. Like, my body is like acting like it's never done any work and it's like, bitch, get used to it. Like, quit your complaining. I was like, now it's like every 5 minutes I do something, even just, because I think I have dry scalp from the washing my hair. And it's just exhausting. Just doing this for a second.
The inalienable right to enrich. Then we heard they possessed enough 60% enriched material, 460 kilograms, to make 11 atomic bombs. Finally, we heard the following statement. They would not give up diplomatically what we could not win militarily. In other words, they were again miscalculating the success of Midnight Hammer, which was a total success. These are incontrovertible signs, among many other signs, sir, that their regime had not given their negotiating team authority to make a deal required by you. We conferred with you. and all the other members of your foreign policy team. Susie Wiles, Pete Hegseth, the chairman, Marco Rubio, JD, Scott Bissett, Chris Wright, John Radcliffe. Throughout all of these negotiations, and we were repeatedly rebuffed on everything we asked for. I have no doubt that we exhausted all efforts on behalf of a peaceful resolution, as you directed. Jared and I both agreed that the Iranians were there to buy time until a weaker president arrived. This was a flawed strategy, as your clear direction was to never allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon today or any time in the future. Against that backdrop and our compelling military successes in epic fury, we have had multiple reach-outs from the region and others who want to play a role in ending this conflict peacefully. I can report to you today that we have, along with your foreign policy team, presented a 15-point action list that forms the framework for a peace deal. This has been circulated through the Pakistani government, acting as the mediator. And this has resulted in strong and positive messaging in talks, as you just indicated to the press. But these are sensitive diplomatic discussions, and you have directed us to maintain confidentiality on the specific terms and not negotiate through the news media as others do. I can say this: we will see where things lead, and if we can convince Iran that this is the inflection point with no good alternatives for them, other than more death and destruction. We have strong signs that this is a possibility, and if the deal happens, it will be great for the country and for Iran, for the entire region, and the world at large. Your policy of peace through strength is the most effective tool for a diplomatic resolution here, just as this policy was an effective tool in each and every one of all of the other conflicts you settled in your first year. Iran is looking for an off-ramp following your powerful threat on Saturday. Your indications that you were willing to listen to peace proposals?
Only after they continued to fuck around, they found out, so they called it off 2 days later, right?
We have delivered that message.
Called off what?
Didn't they hit them for a day or two? And then called it off, called it truce?
Just recently?
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
Okay, 2 days?
Three days of bombing, and they were ready to talk. Be serious.
I'll start kind of where you left off, Mr. President. Thank you for doing the work of the free world and having the courage to step up and stop the Iranian terror regime from holding the world hostage. That's really what it is. And 27 days ago, Iran had a modern military. Never in recorded history has the nation's military been so quickly and effectively neutralized. Operation Epic Fury is not an endless war. It's a decisive campaign with clear objectives to destroy.
I'm kicking you out of your area, sir.
Ensure they never obtain a nuclear weapon. This is stuff for the history books. This is stuff for legacy. Mr. President, you are acting now to ensure future generations do not have to live under the threat of a nuclear-armed Iran. However, you wouldn't know it if you listened to the dishonest hate Trump media, as you referenced. The folks here in the room, these cameras, they have a choice. You're either informing the American people of the truth or you're not. Because I hear it from my people every day. Behind every headline you write, there's a helicopter crew in the air. And behind every news banner you write, there's a battalion on the move. And behind every fake news story, there's an F-35 pilot executing a dangerous mission. My message to the media is get it right. This actually isn't something new to me. Maybe a young guy, Mr. President, but I'm not a rookie in this realm. In 2007, I helped lead the surge, the public fight for the Iraq surge. Stood and watched people stand in the Senate and declare the war is lost before it even started. Who was that?
Yeah, but
that was the Democrats.
Remember they say that's the shift.
That was 3 years into a war. Now we're 3
I have Maclazine and Zofran, but I've got to be careful with that because that causes prolonged QTs in my heart.
This is not parity. This is not chaos.
What do you have in your
This is
stomach?
success. Pure American
Nothing, I
success.
don't think.
On plan, as the president said.
The cause of the nausea.
Over
It's
10,000
working on
enemy
itself
targets
instead of
destroyed.
some food.
Over 140, I think now you're right, Mr. President, over 150 naval vessels sunk, underground facilities destroyed, their defense industrial base in shambles, and overnight, not only do they not have a Navy, Mr. President, they no longer have a Navy commander. IRGC's Navy commander was killed overnight in operation. So no Navy leader.
He looks tired.
Here's the thing about the media, though. If President Trump had not acted, you'd be screaming, why not? And now that he has taken decisive action, you're asking, well, why did you? It's the same old tired playbook, TDS in your DNA. But the hardworking, God-fearing, patriotic Americans out there know better. And you alluded to this, President Obama, Mr. President. Here's a fact that you don't hear on your networks, but we know. Many of the Iranian military factories and bases that we're systematically destroying were paid for by the pallets of American cash that Barack Obama flew into Tehran under the Iran deal. You might call it an inconvenient truth. Iran took our money and turned it into weapons and bunkers and ammo. And now we're destroying those weapons and you're writing, Mr. President, that grievous wrong. And make no mistake, we had to act. And our objectives are clear. No nukes, no Navy, and a complete dismantling of their missile program and defense industrial base. And as Marco pointed out, that mission, and the VP as well, has not changed since day one. Yet, 2 days ago, they shot 2 failed missiles on a target 4,000 kilometers away. For years, they told the world that their missiles could only range 2 kilometers. Surprise. Yet again, Iran lied. And to the world, I say London is 4,000 kilometers from Iran. Washington, D.C. is 3,300 kilometers from Venezuela, another country President Trump did something about that partnered for a long time with Iran. So you're telling us that Iran is not a threat to the world or to the U.S. President Trump knows better. And here's what success actually looks like right now. You mentioned it, Mr. President. A-10 Warthogs, if you know them, you love them. And Apache helicopter gunships are flying strike missions inside Iranian airspace and throughout the Strait of Hormuz at will. See, you only send these slow, low-flying, close air support platforms when the enemy has no meaningful air defenses left. Their presence is proof that Iran's air defenses are gone. Their command and control is shattered, their top leaders hiding in underground bunkers, while their mid-level commanders are being crushed in the field. The morale of their fighters plummeting. We see that disconnect daily. They're privately admitting, as you said, Mr. President, very heavy losses. We know that. President Trump has given us a clear mission. Our capabilities are only going up and Iran's are plummeting. We are here to win, and we're full speed ahead. So, Steve, we appreciate your efforts. We pray for a deal, and we welcome a deal. And we have the ultimate deal maker to make it happen. But in the meantime, as I said yesterday, the Department of War will continue negotiating the bombs. War is negotiation by other means.
Thank you.
And finally, I want to thank our incredible troops. Our pilots, crews, sailors, refuelers, air defenders, the absolute best of America, the real 1% of our country. This president, President Trump, has your back. And I know this cabinet prays for you every single day. We ask the American people to do the same as they continue in this mission. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's great. I think before I ask Scott to say a couple of words,
Will you save edit whatever?
Sure. You can save it.
People like the mayor of Chicago and the governor of Illinois would say, please come in and stop the crime.
Do you want to print this?
A beautiful young lady was killed the other day. Her father was a very good friend of Dan Scavino.
Okay.
And he took it very hard. Dan took it very hard. He liked the father, friends. They grew up together. And it's a young lady whose life would be saved if we did what we did as an example in Washington, D.C., which is now a safe city. All the time, people come up to me in the building, people that work here, they say, thank you so much. I know immediately what they're talking about. They're able to walk to work. They walk to work. You all walk to work. Some of you were mugged. I know you told me stories. Some of you were mugged. One person in particular was viciously mugged. In the group right here, it's not happening anymore. You have a safe city.
We got to set up a prayer.
Louisiana, the governor of Louisiana called me, can you help me with New Orleans? They just had the Mardi Gras. He said it was the safest Mardi Gras we've ever had. Sounds terrible to say. No murders. You know, it sounds like who would say this? No murders, but they always had murders. They had a lot of crime during Mardi Gras. He said virtually no crime. We had the troops down there. Memphis, Tennessee, I just got back. We were there. Crime is down 75%. In a short period of time, we're there 5 months. We could do that for Chicago. We could do that for New York. We could do that for LA. And we could do that for, frankly, San Francisco. I know they have a mayor who's trying very hard. He's a Democrat, but he's trying very hard. But we could do it much more effectively because he can't do what we do. He can't take people out from the city and bring them back to the country from where they came, where they were in prisons. They were allowed to go in prisons. There were drug dealers, the highest level drug dealers, murderers, 11,888 murders. We do things that they can't do. I had friends calling me up from San Francisco. Could you give him a chance? I said, absolutely. If you want, I'll give him a chance. He's trying. He's doing okay, but we could do much better. We could make it a lot safer than it is. San Francisco, a great city, was a great city, could quickly become a great city again. But, you know, they're going too slowly.
Yes.
Please and thank you.
I tell my friends, they're very substantial people. They're in a certain business where people have made a lot of money. I don't hope that lasts. But they have a tremendous potential. It was one of the greatest cities in the world. Now it's got a lot of crime. And the mayor's really trying. Again, a Democrat trying. And I spoke to him. He just wants to have a chance. And I said, we'll give you a chance. But we can solve it very quickly. This young lady would be around today if we were around, because we have nobody coming through our border. I mean, literally for 9 months, it's zero. I'm trying to believe that number could be possible, because millions of people came in through Biden. But nobody even tries. We don't have the caravans of thousands, 25, 30,000 people pouring into our border. They come up in caravans. We don't have caravans anymore. There's no such thing anymore. It's a name that I think I developed, but somebody developed it, but I think it was me. I thought it was inappropriate. And thousands of people would come up and just barge into our country, totally unchecked, totally unvetted. And this man came in, Dan, right? And he came in through the ridiculous open border of Biden. If we were there, the election was rigged. What are you going to do? Came back, big comeback. But if we were there, we wouldn't have had people coming through. It's amazing. You know, it's so easy now because everyone knows they're not getting through. We don't have any caravans. Once they know that, when it was easy to come through. When I heard that they had an open border policy, I said, boy, this is going to be.
Look at my feet.
When it was actually, you know, it dawned on me because
they're all acting like chicken,
and
turkey,
finishing up something. He didn't want to finish it
chicken feet, turkey, gobble feet,
and we got it finished. But
chicken,
that
ducks,
young lady
whatever.
would be alive today.
Penguin?
And
nope.
She'd be alive for another reason, because we would
the
have
three
the
little
National
clawy
Guard in Chicago,
things.
and in New York, and in other places, and they love doing it. It's like training. To be honest, it's actually training. I never want to take him out of D.C. I mean, maybe somebody later on will do it, but I never want to take.
It is so weird
seeing. We feel so good. We feel so safe. We
whitish
beautiful,
hair
strong
more
people,
than red.
and they're so nice. They open the doors for people. They carry bags. They pick up paper when they see paper on the ground. I looked at D.C. last night. I drove to make a speech, and I drove through, and I said, take me this way, take me that way. The city's clean. The fences are down. You don't have homeless all over your parks. I mean, we had parks. There was no room for anything else other than homeless. It's all clean and nice. And it'll be even more beautiful in a year from now. And we have some projects that are, this ballroom is going to be something that's so beautiful for the city, so desperately needed by presidents. I mean, now it's no secret the military wanted it more than anybody. It was supposed to be secret, but it became unsecret because of people that are really unpatriotic saying things. But does it matter? Doesn't matter. It's going to be great. We're building an arc, a triumphal arc, which will be incredible for the city. Incredible. We're fixing up what was the Kennedy Center. You know, I was honored with the board. Changed the name a little bit. Actually, it shows that the Republican and the Democrats have worked together. It's really something we work together. So I think it's a great symbol, actually. But we're doing a lot of work. That building's ready to fall. It's in terrible shape. We're closing it. We're going to open it with a bang in less than 2 years. It'll come in under budget and ahead of schedule. That's what it won't be like the Federal Reserve. It's costing $4 billion or something there. Think of it, $4 billion. You know, it's amazing. I said to the group before, I said, everything I do, I get sued. I build under budget, ahead of schedule. I get for a ballroom that's going to be the most beautiful ballroom in the country, so desperately needed. You won't have to have tents sitting on the White House lawn. If it rains, you get wiped out. To honor the president of China, or the president of France, or the president of somewhere. You can have the greatest. We get sued by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. They don't know what they're doing. Then I just found out we got sued by that group and another group, I guess, on the fixing up of again, I'll use the old name, Kennedy Center, because they're not fixing up Trump Cannon. It's going to be beautiful when you add the name Trump. But we got sued. And all I'm doing is fixing it up. We're fixing broken marble. We're putting on a roof because it leaks like a sieve. We're fixing steel that's broken. It's the same building, same exact building. We're fixing it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be so beautiful and safe. It's actually unsafe. You had some of those columns on the outside that were painted a fake gold. Now we painted them a beautiful white color. Beautiful cream white. It's beautiful. Everyone said it's so much more beautiful now. Instead of a cheap, you can't imitate gold. See, I'm a gold person. It's all real stuff. You can't imitate it. Someday they'll discover paint that will look like gold, and the guy's going to be the richest man in the world. You can't imitate real gold. It just doesn't. It's 24 karat, which is what this building deserves. But think of it. I get sued because I'm fixing up the Trump Kennedy Center. We're going to make it gorgeous.
Wait, so
safe.
what did they determine? Does he have to take his name off?
Just all fix it.
Of what?
The Kennedy Center.
Oh, the Trump.
Yeah.
Kennedy.
You know what that is?
Yeah, some judge.
The man that took this beautiful Federal Reserve building. That's small, much smaller than the hotel I built. I built the Waldorf Astoria Hotel down the road. And it was a beautiful job for $201 million. It's bigger, I think, than the Federal Reserve building. And it's got rooms and bathrooms, and it's not like just an open office space, which is much cheaper to build. Think of this. I hear he's going to be over $4 billion for a little building. He doesn't get sued by anybody but me. I sue because it's either somebody's very crooked, which has to be, because what happened to all that money?
Minnesota is.
I would have done that building for $25 billion. It's going to cost maybe $4 billion, and we have a great new person coming in to take over the Fed. And Kevin may not ever have an office, because I don't know if they're going to be able to build. I passed that building the other day. It's a see-through. You know what see-through means? There's no walls up. And they're going to spend. But the National Trust for Historic Preservation, which is a joke, by the way, they didn't sue that building. They didn't sue anybody. But they sue me, and I build. And by the way, my buildings, it's all donations. Rich people and people are putting up the money. $0 taxpayer dollars. Is that right, Scott? $0 taxpayer dollars. This stuff is all done for free, and I get sued. This could only happen to Trump. But they don't sue the guy whose interest rates are too high. That's why we call him Too Late. His name is Jerome Powell. We call him Jerome Too Late Powell. And done a terrible job. He suffers from Trump derangement syndrome, as he probably should, because I had it pretty hard, so I don't blame him. But they don't sue a man who has taken this gorgeous building, ripped it down from the inside, taking ceilings that are as beautiful as you've ever seen, taking the ceilings down instead of leaving them, taking walls down that were 2 feet thick of solid concrete and plaster, replacing them with 6-inch walls with no insulation. I said, let me ask you, are you going to put insulation in? No, it's not in the budget. Insulation costs $5. Now you're going to hear the guy next door. If he's next door to me, I'll hear his military plan. I'll know exactly. If Lutnick is in there, I'll say, oh, I know exactly what Lutnick's got planned. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. They've ripped this gorgeous building apart, and you can never build it again. I could, but it costs a lot of money. A normal person can never build. So you're going to have crummy little walls, a flat little ceiling eventually, but right now you don't have anything. And nobody sues this guy. And then when Jeanine Pirro, working with Pam and others, has the courage to sue to find out what happened to maybe $4 billion at a building that may never be occupied by Kevin Moore. She may never get there. We're going to have to find him some space in the White House. We'll put him in the basement of the ballroom. But now think of it. When Jeanine Pirro and Pam and when they bring a suit, it's like, oh, this terrible thing. And then we have a judge that attacks us. So we've got to get our priorities straight. It's a very sad thing that's happened with the Fed. And then just one other thing very quickly, you have Gavin Newsom in California Railroad. That's 100 times over budget. It's out of control. It was supposed to go from the middle of San Francisco to the middle of LA. Well, now it stops way short of both. It now goes into areas that nobody ever heard of. It's billions and billions of dollars over budget, years and years, maybe decades late. And that's why we have a country that has a lot of problems. We have incompetent people. It's old people. Think of this: Federal Reserve. I would have had that building done for $25 million. If I did it, somebody else would have done it for more. So maybe 50. You could have done that building if it was properly done and planned. You would have done that building I would have done it to $25 million, and it would be better. It would be better. See this pen right here? This pen is an interesting example. Same thing.
There's a black Sharpie.
It's very inexpensive. But it writes well. I like it.
Oh no, it's not. It
looks like a
fancy pen.
But they do treat me with a Sharpie.
Oh, it is Sharpie with the gold writing.
So they have $1,000 pens. And you hand pens out, you're signing and you hand them out. You're handing them to all these people. Sometimes you have 30, 40 people. And they were $1,000 a piece. Beautiful pen, ballpoint. 1,000. It was gold, silver, gorgeous. But I'm handing out to kids that don't even know what to do. What is this, Mommy? It's kids. They're getting a pen for $1,000. They have no idea what it is.
Oh my goodness.
And I feel guilty because I'm like, I'm by nature. I don't, it's the government. I love the government. Like I love myself economically. I want to save money. So I'm saying this is crazy. And it had another problem. They didn't write well. So I take it out and I saw it and there's no ink. And I got all you people looking, and you say, there must be something wrong with Trump. And there's no ink in the pen, and it costs $1,000. Just when I called the guy, I said, I'd like to use your pen, but I can't have a gray thing with a big S on it. Say Sharpie. As I'm signing a $1 trillion airplane contract to buy brand new fighter jets, brand new B-2 bombers, of which we just ordered plenty. I can't do that with the press. Use your pen, but I like the pen the best. But I'll sign it. I could do like Biden did, give it to somebody else to sign, or an auto pen, or maybe sign it separately in another. But I can't use your pen. He said, well, I can make it nicer. I said, what can you do? He said, I'll paint it black. I said, that's nice. And I could even paint the White House on it, sir, if you like.
In gold.
In gold. Almost real gold, not bad. And I can even do your signature, sir. And by the way, this was not staged. I just saw the pen sit there, and I thought of this as an example of how $25 million spent by me at the Federal Reserve Building would be a better job than $4 billion that they're spending. And you know, one of the things that Kevin Walsh told me, he said they ripped down the nicest building. I don't know what building they're talking about. They ripped down a building, Scott, right? Kevin Walsh said it's the most beautiful building in Washington. He said the most beautiful space. They ripped it down. Why did they do that? I don't know. Do you know what he's talking about? Is it true?
Yes, sir.
They ripped it down. We have a moron at the Fed. Who wouldn't be lowering interest rates right now? But I want to thank Janine Pirro and Pam and her group for having the courage to bring this suit. And I believe that the contractor on that job is probably one of the richest men in the country right now. I believe that it's not possible to spend that kind of money. $3 billion, $4 billion, nobody knows, nobody has any idea what it is. But it's over $3 billion, and it's probably going to be over $4 billion by the time they finish. And it may never get finished. Unless I take it over, I'll get it finished. But it can never be what it was. It's never going to have those beautiful ceilings. It's never going to have those incredible walls. The walls were 1.5 feet thick of solid masonry. They ripped them down for no reason. And I just gave you the story. And just to finish on this one. So I told that story to somebody and said, yeah, but it's not the same thing. I said, you're right. This one is better. He writes. So the guy said to me, you don't have to pay me, sir. I said, no, I don't
Stop
want
talking.
Let me pay you.
Or making sound.
No, sir, you don't have to. You're the president of the United States. He was shocked. The head of Sharpie gets a call. I don't even know who the hell he is. He said, is this really the president? He said, no, you don't have to pay me, sir. This is such an honor. I said, no, I want to pay you. And he said, what would you like to pay? I said, how about $5 a pen? He said, that's all right. Whatever the hell we agreed to. Peanuts. As opposed to 1,000. And these were $1,000 pens. And we were giving them out. Sometimes, you know, you were there for Sundays. I'd have 30, 40 people standing behind me. I'd give out 40 pens to people. Then somebody would say, could I have a couple extra? This way I go like this. Here, you want 5? Here, 5. But the bottom line is, they're better pens. It's a business story. So for $5, could be 0, but for $5, I get a much better pen than for $1,000. And I can hand them out, and actually they become hot as a pistol, so what can I tell you? And with that, could I give it to, please, a man who's done a great job at treasury? Good luck, Scott.
Well, sir, as always, you're a tough act to follow, but that is very illustrative. Your economic leadership has made our military mission possible. Mr. President, national security, as you always say, is economic security. Your leadership has shown the American people that there is no prosperity without security. That our mighty military on one side, but the U.S. economic strength.
So they mentioned that Walls was named or implicated in the Hoffman's assassinations.
Are prosecuting.
Did you hear anything else after that?
To take control of the global economy.
Yeah, I don't think I have either.
I
followed the assassination stuff. And the guy that did the deed,
he worked for Walls
we had a
before.
relationship with Walls.
Yeah.
A personal relationship.
Yeah.
Thousands
The guy is a nutbag.
Many people,
Walls
especially
seemed
the
to
Democrats,
attract those kind of people to
underestimate
his
the will of the
administration.
American people
People
for
like
short-term
Ellison.
volatility for 50 years of safety that we are going to have on the other side of this. And I
Boom
believe
mic got in the way.
energy prices will be lower, inflation will be lower.
Live
Before,
now.
we had the appearance
Bloopers.
of security, which is not real security. Now, the American
I
people
think you
and the
gotta hit
world
something.
will have absolute security. Through your maximum pressure campaign, Treasury has worked to uncover all financial lifelines to the regime and cut them off. You gave that order last March. This was not something that happened overnight. This is something that has been contemplated for almost a year.
They're not found.
The Iranian financial system collapsed in December. We had systematically weakened Iran's ability to fund operations and procure weapons, and that required months of preparations.
If you go back to this,
well, don't worry about
this one.
Yeah, don't worry about that one. Go to the Bluetooth setting on the computer. Computer, all the way down on the bottom. Settings.
Are made available to the global market.
Settings.
Yeah.
Bold actions like the development of Finance Corporation's Maritime Reinsurance Program in conjunction with Central Command will soon provide shippers through the Gulf region with a level of security we have never seen before. Mr. President, we are starting to see more and more movement in and out of the Gulf today, and this is more than yesterday, and this is the beginning. I am confident that shipping traffic will continue to increase on a daily basis, even before we secure the straits.
Bluetooth.
Turning to the home front, the U.S. economy
you gotta turn the Bluetooth. Yep. But you gotta turn that on first.
It's on.
No, there's no blue light on your printer.
Thanks to
this is the computer.
I know you want it to Bluetooth to the printer. So turn the Bluetooth on.
The computer doesn't have.
Oh my
this computer doesn't have a Bluetooth. I have it hardwired.
Wait, watch. I'll show
We're
you.
starting to see the working family tax cuts benefits.
I had it on.
This tax season.
Wait.
44% of tax returns have claimed at least one of your signature policies: no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of auto loans. The average tax refund is up more than 10% for working Americans. The economy you vitalized through your pro-growth policies is well positioned to withstand these temporary disruptions. The United States dollar has reasserted itself as a safe haven asset. The U.S. dollar has appreciated since the hostilities began because everyone knows, thanks to your efforts, the U.S. economy is the best position in the world and capital is flowing in. Efforts to reprioritize economic security are ensuring the United States remains secure, resilient, and prepared for the challenges ahead. As we approach the 250th anniversary, America will never be safer, more secure, militarily and economically.
I took the Bluetooth.
I just want to ask you a question.
The Wi-Fi.
Is this your central casting?
Bluetooth, okay. Audio device. Oh, okay, so.
Okay, now I'm getting
This guy, he's central casting. He's wearing the glasses.
No, please don't.
I think I want to get glasses.
I'm comfortable.
That's beautiful. Good job. That's really good. No, he's done a great job. You all have. Proud of you all. Do you have any questions?
Yes, Mr. President, are you going to go in for the uranium? Like, how do you secure Iran? And
let's assume I was or I wasn't. Why would I ever answer a question? What kind of a question? Am I going to go in for the? Oh yeah, I'm going in. We're going in tomorrow at 3 o'clock. How could you possibly ask a question like that and expect an answer? I don't know. But I don't know. I think you're a friendly person too. It's just such a ridiculous question.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. President. There's been a report that potentially the U.S. is looking at diverting some munitions, air defenses that were meant for Ukraine to the Middle East. Is there any accuracy to that? Is that something you're considering?
Well, I'd have to ask you, but we do that all the time. You know, we have tremendous amounts of ammunition. We have them in other countries, like in Germany and all over Europe. We have, you know, we're packed. And sometimes we take from one and we use for another. We help Ukraine. Biden started and he gave $350 billion.
Oh, is it raining?
Too much, way too much. And
it smells like it.
It sounds like it.
Now to NATO. We sell it to NATO and they probably give it to Ukraine. Most of it, I think, they give it to Ukraine. But, we get paid for everything that we don't give anything anymore. That's a tough situation, that whole Ukraine situation. Very, very tough. We're working very hard on getting that one
No, I guess
solved.
not.
It doesn't have any impact on us, virtually nothing. In fact, if anything, I mean, we sell a lot of equipment for that unfortunate war. 25,000 people died last month. 25,000, so mostly soldiers. Some in the towns, but for the most part, soldiers. They're dying. Nobody's seen anything like it since World War II. It's a terrible situation, and hopefully that's going to get settled. You know, I settled 8 wars, and many of them I think were more difficult than this one. In theory, they were more difficult, but there's tremendous hatred between President Putin and President Zelensky. Tremendous hatred. I've seen it before, but I've never seen it maybe to this extent. And I think that's calming down a little bit, and I think we have a chance of getting it done. But it doesn't affect us thousands of miles away. That's why when I heard the head of Germany say, "This is not our war," about Iran, I said, well, Ukraine's not our war. We helped, but Ukraine's not our war. I thought it was a very inappropriate statement to make, but he made it. You can't erase it. But he felt that way. I said, well, you know, Ukraine's not our war. And it's not, but I would like to see all those young people stop being killed. When they're being killed, it's like a slaughterhouse. What's happening there is horrible. 25,000 on average. Last 2 months ago was 31,000 people died. In 1 month, Marco, right? I said, this is getting crazy. It's getting worse. Think of it. 31,000 soldiers, both Russian and Ukraine, died 2 months ago. 25,000 last month. And if I could solve that, it would be a great honor to do it. I wish it could have gone faster. I solved other ones in 1 day that had been going for 32 years. We stopped one that was starting. It was already started. India and Pakistan, and the Prime Minister of Pakistan, a very fine gentleman, said President Trump solved something that was going to cost 10 million lives. That was going to cost a lot of lives, 2 nuclear nations. And those were complicated, but we got them done quickly. This one is, it's a shame. And the only reason I'm doing it, frankly, is because I want to stop death. I want to stop the death from happening. I think I'm going to go with the man that I've missed, Brian. I haven't seen you in a long time. I miss you. He's been in a very strange location. I don't know. He's had a strange thing happen. But anyway, go ahead, Brian.
Well, good to see you too. Actually, good to see you, Chicago. Really good to see you too. You talked about gas prices coming down, obviously they will. Would you ever consider suspending the federal gas tax in order to kind of temporarily alleviate some?
Well, some people should do that. As an example, in California, every time prices go down, his prices go up because the gas tax is bigger than the tax itself, bigger than the product itself. It hasn't. I mean, we've thought about it, I guess, but honestly, when I did this, I knew it was going to be a little bit. We had the greatest economy ever. We had the greatest stock market in history. I said, we're going to take a little bit of a hit, a short-term hit. It's going to end up going much higher than it was, in my opinion. I said we're going to have a great stock market. Nobody thought we could get to 50,000 or 7,000 in the respective indices. Nobody thought that was going to happen, but it did in the first year. They said it couldn't happen in 4 years, that you wouldn't hit 50 in 4 years, but you could maybe get close. We hit it in the first year. And I said, this is a good time to solve a problem that you have to solve. And that's what I did. But the gas tax, people have talked about it. It's something we have in our pocket if we think it's necessary.
If I follow real quickly, you just recently took off, Secretary Duffy, 17,000 truckers off the road that quite frankly could not speak English, which is a safety.
Yeah.
Could we ever extend that to Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, cab drivers?
It should be.
A lot of Ubers, a lot of my drivers.
Oh, wow. That's not good. I didn't like that. Go ahead, Jeff.
So that's a really good point. The problem is that our states are the ones that issue these licenses.
So with commercial driver's licenses, we do have some federal control. But again, we have thousands of people who can't speak the language, a long-standing rule, and it's a safety issue. Right? If you can't understand road signs, if you can't communicate with law enforcement when you're pulled over and communicate what's on your rig, huge problem. But the last administration, Mr. President, they let truck driving schools self-certify that were qualified to train truck drivers. And so this is like the Leering Center. So you pay $800 and
I swear people really throw Minnesota under the bus.
And again, they have no skills. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the skills. They haven't gone through any of the testing. And then they get licenses, and they're killing Americans on our roads. So it's remarkable the rot that the last administration allowed to take place. We are ending that, and I need partnership with our states. Even California started to come on board. Even Gavin has started to play ball with us, which is surprising. Sure. Not all the way, a little bit of a struggle.
It's interesting because I just saw something that the nursing home business and the daycare centers in particular, they went out and inspected them in Minnesota, and they didn't exist. They're knocking on door. He happens to be a young man, Nick.
Nick Charlie!
He's done a very good job. They're knocking on doors. It's like homes. And they're getting hundreds of thousands of that. They didn't exist. And in California, it's worse. It's even worse. And I spoke with Russell. I said, Russell, don't send them any money. He said, but we have a court order that we have to. Can you believe it? A judge. The judges are really hurting this country. Our judges, Justice Roberts doesn't like what I say, but the judges are really hurting this country. And frankly, the justices, the Supreme Court, has really hurt our country too.
Do you have a new deadline? There are some thoughts now. Do you have a new deadline before taking?
No, I'll announce it. I mean, right now, you're talking about a deadline for doing some pretty big damage, even bigger than we've done. We'll see. Well, look, we have very substantial talks going on with respect
you want to go to the Play Store that
I told you about a present.
app install and install
See,
HP Smart.
The present?
That's what I'm trying to do.
Oh, okay.
They said to show you the fact that we're real and solid and we're there. We're going to let you have 8 boats of oil. 8 boats. 8 big boats of oil. This was 2 days ago. And they'll sail up tomorrow. That was 3 days ago. And I didn't think much about it.
I think
and
we
then
may
I
have
watched
to put it on the
news, and
network.
they said a very good anchor.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure how to do that.
Happened to be Fox. But I watched it, and they said something's unusual happening. There are 8 boats
I think that's the answer.
that are going right up the middle of
I put in the.
homeless street.
May I try
8 big tankers are going loaded up with oil right through. And I said, well, I guess they were
Why should I
right.
have
and
all
they
the
were-
fun?
No, it's
They were-
you are
they were
impatient, so you
and
give
it's
up
like-
after the first try.
I haven't given up yet.
I know.
I guess we deal with the right people.
Get the heck out of before I
They
beat.
didn't apologize
I'm winding
for
it up
something
like
they said, and they said, we're going to
Popeye.
send 2 more boats. And it ended up being 10 boats, and I hope I haven't screwed up the negotiation and stuff. I thought it was appropriate to say, because I told you the other day by saying they're going to give us a present.
Yeah,
first.
2 illegal immigrants who were arrested at San Francisco airport for ignoring deportation orders.
You'll notice that the blue light is on the printer,
Really great reception from Americans.
which
Yep,
means
that's
that
it. Yep.
the Wi-Fi is set
A
up.
PR aspect of this that can allow future deportations to go on with less protest and less outrage.
Yeah, it's amazing, because by putting ICE there, look, the press was very unfair to ICE.
There it is.
Everyone else. These are great American patriots. They have a tough job.
They
They
found
find
it?
murderers and take them out of our country. I wouldn't want to do it. You wouldn't want to do it. Most people wouldn't want to do it.
You can figure out. No, you can.
11,800
Yes, that's
and
the
that's
default.
murders.
Okay, well then
That's
back
not
up
drug
one.
dealers, that's not lots of other things. It's not people from mental institutions. Entire jail populations were released from major countries
Yeah. Yep.
and let into our country through the open door.
Add a new device.
And ICE has done an amazing job. I wouldn't want that job. It's a tough job, dangerous job, boy. So what happens is...
So it's scanning. The
Okay.
picture that I want isn't listed. Add in
And
new
I just
device.
think if you take off your masks, they did for that. Not for when they're looking for
Find
some,
it, select a shared printer by
cold-blooded
name,
killers and they're in the net. But for that,
and
And they
using
did- they
the
took 'em
IP address
And
or host name.
the
Okay,
messages
so I'm
they
gonna
send
add
me
using the
interviews
IP address.
It's 57 right now?
One person said, he's a very strong
This
man.
computer don't tell me what the
I said,
temp is.
He grabbed my bag, he helped the woman with a bag with the lift.
Your
And,
phone tell you?
I'll tell you,
Yeah.
I don't want to use the word rehab because there was nothing to rehab, but rehab from
I'm
the
gonna
press,
go-
because the press is so tough on them.
Hands on.
And these crooks in Minnesota, these crooked politicians and dirty cops.
I told you,
Dirty
they throw
politicians.
Minnesota under the bus
Walz
every
is a
chance
dirty,
they get.
crooked politician. And the attorney general is a crooked guy. He's no investigations, and I hope JD's going to do a great job. He's in charge of it now with somebody who's very talented. But I think it's easy stuff. They say $19 billion. Think of it. Just listen, $19 billion. You know, if we would solve half of the fraud problem, man, in this country, we'd have more than a balanced budget. We'd have a surplus. And in the case of Minnesota, it's very Somalia oriented. Think of it, these people come from a crooked country, disgusting country, one of the worst countries in the world. Acknowledged to be one of the worst countries in the world. Some people say it's the worst. They have no money, they have nothing. They come to our country, low IQs, and they rob us blind. Stupid people. And they rob us blind. Because we have crooked politicians. And we have dirty cops. The Attorney General's a dirty cop. It's my opinion. It's only my opinion. And something should be done about him. Let's see what kind of job he
President, yesterday you said that you would take Iran to be able.
Excuse me?
Should Iran be able to charge a toll for the Strait of Hormuz? They're charging some vessels to go through.
Well, should they be able to? I mean, they shouldn't be able to.
There's a bagel in there.
They're doing it a little bit. I don't know. Look, their capability is a lot less than it was 2 weeks ago. And with every week and every day, frankly, it gets less and less. All I can tell you is they're begging to make a deal. So let's see what happens. We may make Tell me about mail-in ballots. You may not use the mail-in ballot. You probably said, yeah, I did. You know what? Because I'm president of the United States, and because of the fact that I'm president of the United States, I did a mail-in ballot for elections that took place in Florida.
Device is not
Because I felt I should be here instead of being in the beautiful sunshine taking. That's right. And I decided that I was going to vote by mail-in ballot because I couldn't be there because I had a lot of different things. But you know, we have exceptions for mail-in ballots. You do know that, right? So if you're away, we have an exception. If you're in the military, we have an exception. If you're on a business trip, we have an exception. If you're disabled, we have an exception. And if you're ill, if you're not feeling good. Right? So I was away, mostly in Washington, D.C., so I used a mail-in ballot. But I appreciate the question because I know it was so well-meaning. Yeah.
Mr. President, I actually just looked at the company that owns Sherry, and they stopped being positive. As she mentioned.
By the way, they deserve it. It's a good product.
So you gave a 5-day deadline. With oil tankers going through the Strait of Hormuz, is that a condition to move that 5-day deadline?
Well, we don't want anything impeded. We want ships to go through. We don't know that they've dropped any mines, by the way, because we blew up all the mine droppers, right? We blew up every one of them. They're going to have to take them out on a rowboat or something. I don't know how the hell they get out there, but we don't really know. You might speak to it. We don't know. There could be a few of them out there, but that's a lot. You know, if you have $1 billion ship and you get hit by a mine, it's not the greatest thing in the world. So if you think, the problem with that, that's not like you've decimated the military. If you think there may be a mine, that's a bad thought. And it stops things up. How are we doing in that regard?
Mr. President, you're right. We have so heavily degraded
their coastal defense capabilities and their naval capabilities, that any strategic or operational attempts to do those types of things are extremely limited, and we continue to move over the top of that. Now, whether Iran makes a wise choice or not to try to execute that is part of how this deal comes together, but with every passing day, the military pressure that we're putting on them lessens their ability to really hold that militarily at issue.
I mean, the problem with the issue of the Hormuz Straits is this: we've decimated them as a military. No Air Force, no Navy, very few rockets left. We blew up so many. Hard to manufacture. Same thing with drones. The leadership is gone. The problem with the Straits is this: let's say we do a great job. We say we got 99%. 1% is unacceptable, because 1% is a missile going into the hull of a ship that cost $1 billion, right? So 1% is we can't. If we do a 99% decimation, that's no good. So it's really, you know, leverage. But I have a feeling it's going to clean up pretty quickly. I can just say this: they want to make, and I probably hurt our little negotiation. It gives them a little impetus to say, well, I wish you didn't say that. But they said yesterday that we weren't negotiating with them, and now they admit that we were negotiating with them. So they want to make a deal. The reason they want to make a deal is they have been just beat to shit.
So are you thinking of taking control of Iran's oil?
It's an option. I mean, I wouldn't talk about it, but it's an option.
Is that something you thought about?
Well, in Venezuela, we've done very well working with Venezuela, certainly. We've taken in billions and billions of dollars. And by the way, Venezuela is doing better right now than they've ever done in the history of their country. And sort of like, but the United States is a lot of money, Marco, right? Do you want to talk about that for a second?
Venezuela? Yeah. Yeah. I think Venezuela, in the first 2 months of this year, generated more revenue